Chapter 27. Ancestral Master. This disciple will definitely work hard. He clenched his fists and replied solemnly. Very good. Liu nodded in appreciation. The path of the great emperor is invincible in the world. This is a path of conquest. If you want to embark on this path, then start right in front of you. Start by defeating the 6 major sect of Yan. Yes, Zhou Yi's blood was boiling in his heart, and his fighting spirit was high. Inspired by the Tao ancestor, the first stage of the main mission road of the great emperor is opened. Defeat the 6 major sect of Yan within a year and become invincible. The voice of the heavenly book spirit sounded in his mind. Zhou Yi was shocked. Defeat the 6 major sect of Yan within a year? He didn't even know the situation of the 6 major sect? Defeat the 6 major sect of Yan in a year? Zhou Yi raised his head and looked at Liu, and his heart was filled with confidence again. With the ancestral master around, what was impossible? The things that the ancestral master took out between his fingers could benefit him endlessly. Ancestral master. Zhou Yi looked at Liu eagerly, and the intention of asking for benefits was very obvious. Liu nodded. It's time for you to start cultivating. Ancestral master, please teach me. Zhou Yi was overjoyed and hurriedly bowed down. It's easy for me to teach you. I can teach you the Tao scripture, which is the classic for me to become a celestial lord. I can also teach you your family's cultivation method, the void scripture. These are all supreme classics. Thank you, ancestral master. Zhou Yi was overjoyed. Whether it was the Tao scripture or the void scripture, they were all supreme treasures. In the exchange of the heavenly book of Taishang, it required an astronomical amount of energy to exchange. The void scripture is my family's cultivation method. My family? Zhou Yi suddenly remembered that Liu once said that he was the descendant of the great emperor. This great emperor was related to the void scripture? The void scripture is the method of your family's ancestors. Liu nodded with a smile. However, there is also a Ji family here. The void scripture is their family's secret cultivation method. After you learn it, they might give you trouble, but that's not a big deal. You guys are family. Here, there's also a Ji clan here. Zhou Yi was taken aback, only feeling a little incredulous. Yes, the great emperor was unrivaled in the world. Could it be that he would only stay in one place his entire life? When they arrived in your world, they left behind legends and descendants. What's so strange about that? Liu looked at Zhou Yi and smiled. Speaking of which, the Ji family in this world is the direct descendant. You can only be considered a side branch. Zhou Yi nodded. Ancestral master, which classic do you think is suitable for me to learn? You want to become a great emperor. Liu did not directly answer Zhou Yi's question. Instead, he asked him a question. Yes. Zhou Yi nodded solemnly. If that's the case, then none of the classics are suitable for you. Liu looked at Zhou Yi and shook his head. Why? Zhou Yi was stunned. The Tao scripture is my Tao. The void scripture is the Tao of your ancestors. Even all the classics that are circulating now are the Tao of others, not your Tao. To attain the title of great emperor, you must walk your own Tao. Liu smiled and looked at Zhou Yi. The title of great emperor is unparalleled in the world. This is not something that can be achieved easily. Then what should I learn? Don't tell me I don't learn anything. Zhou Yi was completely dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. Of course, learn everything. Liu laughed out loud. Learn their dharma, but not their Tao. Gather the strengths of 100 schools and prove your own Tao. This is the path you have to take. Thank you for your teachings, ancestral master. Zhou Yi suddenly realized. The path of great emperor began with conquest. So that was the case. If he didn't conquer, how could he gather the strengths of 100 schools? The classics of each school were kept secret. Should he wait for others to deliver it to him personally? Of course not. And he could only snatch it. Gathering the strengths of 100 schools might be difficult for others. But he had the book of the highest heavens. As long as he had enough energy, what classics couldn't he exchange? But exchanging these classics also required energy. So, he could only snatch it Zhou Yi raised his head and clenched his fists tightly with a firm expression. Ha ha ha. Very good. Seeing Zhou Yi's expression, Liu's heart was at ease. Of course, he had to snatch it. If you don't snatch it, how can I make a fortune? Young man, move forward bravely. The ancestral master is fooling you. Cultivation begins with the sea of reincarnation. Liu smiled and stretched out a finger to point at Zhou Yi's glabella. In the current sea of reincarnation technique, the Tao scripture is the best. I will first teach you the Tao scripture sea of reincarnation technique. A message circulated, and the voice of the heavenly book spirit sounded in Zhou Yi's mind. Your Majesty, the ancestral master passed down the technique. Your Majesty obtained the Tao scripture sea of reincarnation scroll. It has been recorded in the book of the highest heavens. Your Majesty can read it at any time. Very good. Zhou Yi nodded and then bowed to Liu. Thank you, ancestral master, for passing down the technique. Since I accepted you as my disciple, I naturally have to pass down the technique to you. Liu waved his hand indifferently. Although Liu had to consume energy to exchange for the Tao scripture sea of reincarnation scroll, as the ancestral master, he could not give any benefits. Doing business also required investment. After all, this place is a common place, not a place for cultivation. Let me take you to find a place for cultivation. Liu glanced around the courtyard and shook his head. He waved his hand and sprinkled a ray of light, which rolled up Zhou Yi and soared into the sky. The escape light whistled through the air and swept across the sky. The place Liu wanted to go had already been chosen. The ruins in the spirit void, cave heaven, were not small, and there were many places that could be taken advantage of and tampered with. How could Liu let it go? Galloping all the way, soon after, Liu and Zhou Yi landed on a mountain peak. The top of the mountain was steaming with clouds and smoke, and it looked a little immortal. Ancestral Master, is this the place? After Zhou Yi stood firm, he turned his head and looked around for a while before asking Liu. Of course not. Liu shook his head, waved his hand, and sprinkled out a ray of spiritual light, dispersing the dense clouds in front of him. The fog dissipated, and a vast and magnificent world appeared in front of them. Ancient trees towered into the sky, and strange peaks were spread out. Spiritual birds were dancing in the sky, and waterfalls were flowing on the cliffs. It's really a wonderful scenery of an immortal mountain. When Zhou Yi saw such a scene, he couldn't help but exclaim, "What kind of wonderful scenery of an immortal mountain is this?" Liu smiled and shook his head. He waved his hand and sprinkled out a ray of light. Let's go. The escape light swept across the sky like a long rainbow, and mountains passed by under their feet. Occasionally, there were a few golden birds that were as fast as lightning hovering nearby. They seemed to be intimidated by Liu's momentum and didn't dare to approach. After flying for a while, a huge volcano appeared in front of them. Looking from afar, there was a flame soaring into the sky. Even though they were still far away, they could faintly hear that there seemed to be magma boiling and roaring in the crater of the volcano, and the flame reflected half of the sky. Under the volcano was a dense ruin of ancient buildings. Although more than half of these buildings had been damaged and collapsed, the remaining buildings were magnificent and extraordinary. We're here. Liu pressed down the escape light and landed in front of a towering hall in the ruins. This volcano is the tomb of Emperor Qing, right? Yes, there must be a lot of gains on this trip. Chapter 28. Ancestral Master, what is this place? Zhou Yi looked at the huge building that stretched for thousands of miles in front of him and asked Liu in surprise. This is the former demon capital. Liu raised his head and looked around before nodding slightly. Although it's been abandoned for many years, it's still very old. It's not bad to use it as a temporary place to stay. The spiritual energy here is abundant. In addition, there are spiritual herbs everywhere and countless savage beasts. It's very convenient whether it's cultivation or trial. It's all up to the ancestral master. Although Zhou Yi didn't know what the so-called demon capital was, after hearing Liu's words, he couldn't ask again and quickly bowed to accept the order. Roar! A huge roar sounded. A strange beast the size of a small mountain emerged from the rubble. It roared at Liu and the other man before charging towards them. The rumbling footsteps were like thunder, and the ground shook violently. The giant beast was more than 10 meters tall, with a lion's head and an ox's body. Its whole body was covered with green scales, and its bloody mouth with sharp fangs was like a gate. Ah, Zhou, he had never seen such a situation before. He suddenly screamed in fright and took a few steps back. After a moment, Zhou, he reacted again. With the ancestral master present, what am I afraid of? Zhou, he stopped, and his face turned red. He was very embarrassed and felt that he was really too shameful. Evil beast! Liu yelled and flicked his finger. A sword light soared into the sky. The sword light, as thin as silk, whistled through the air, rushed into the monster's bloody mouth, and went through its brain. Boom! The giant beast that rushed over went soft and fell to the ground, no longer making a sound. Ancestral Master, Zhou, he was very ashamed of his timid behavior just now. He walked to Liu and lowered his head with a red face. It's okay. Liu smiled indifferently and comforted him. Confidence comes from strength. You haven't really cultivated yet, so it's normal for you to lack confidence. Don't be ashamed. Reaching out and pointing to the vast mountains around, Liu said, "There are many beasts in this place. You will train here in the future. If you kill more, you will naturally not be afraid." "Yes," Zhou, he replied respectfully. "The one who is watching the show over there. You have been watching for so long. Why don't you come out and meet me?" Liu looked up at the back of the hall. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he nodded gently. "You were the one who led the lion beast just now, right? You wanted to test? Why didn't I do it myself?" "Someone?" Zhou, he was shocked and quickly followed Liu's gaze, but he didn't find anything. "Someone?" Liu smiled and shook his head. "Of course it's not human. It's just a demon." "There's really?" "Human, this is our demon race's territory." The brawny man looked up and glared at Liu and Zhou. The two horns on his head were faintly flickering with electric light, and the black scales the size of a wine cup were faintly glowing. "You already have the Void Spirit Cave, and now you come to our territory. Do you want to start a war?" The brawny man stretched out his hand, and a huge mace covered with spikes appeared in his hand. The spikes of more than 5 inches long were covered with dark red blood. Of course not." Liu smiled and shook his head. "We are not from the Void Spirit Cave. I'm not here to start a war with you, but what?" When the brawny man heard that Liu was not here to start a war, his expression seemed to ease a little, and the mace in his hand drooped a little. But Liu stretched out his hand and drew a circle around him, and said with a smile, "This place is good. I want it." "Bastard." The brawny man seemed to be irritated by Liu's words. He roared and waved his mace to hit. "All right, stop putting on an act." Liu sneered and pursed his lips. "Your legs are trembling. Why are you still holding on? You were forced to come out and be a target to attract my attention so that you can sneak an attack? Are you trying to embarrass yourself with such methods?" Clang! The mace in the brawny man's hand fell to the ground as his legs trembled. "Why you found out? Do I need to find out?" Liu shook his head and raised his head, shouting, "Come out." His voice was as loud as a bell, reverberating through the surroundings. An invisible ripple swept through the surroundings. We've been discovered. Damn it. I told you this wouldn't work. If we can't sneak an attack, we'll do it by force. What's there to be afraid of?" As the voice sounded, one after another, strange figures appeared from the ruins. A figure that looked like a young girl with a pair of wings on her hands, a sharp beak on her lips, and claws on her feet flew in the air. Behind her were several strange figures and dozens of mutated beasts. "Human, you dare to step into our territory? Only death awaits you." A 3-meter-tall brawny man with a bull's head raised his axe and roared. "What's with the nonsense? Just kill him." A giant snake with a horn on its head and claws on its abdomen spoke human language and swam over. "Gaga gaga. I haven't eaten human flesh for many days. Now it's delivered to my doorstep. A 2-meter-tall, brawny man with black hair all over his body that looked like a black bear laughed strangely and opened his mouth wide with fangs. Go! Kill him! Kill him! A thin figure waved the mantis blade arms in his hands and screamed. Roar! The dozens of monsters behind him roared together. They were ferocious, violent, and murderous. Zhou, don't you want to walk the path of the great emperor? Liu ignored the clamor of these monsters. He turned his head and said to Zhou, now, your ancestor will teach you how to walk the path of the great emperor. The path of the great emperor is to conquer all directions and only be domineering. Liu raised his head and looked at the group of monsters. His eyes revealed a cold, murderous intent. Get lost. Or die. Bastard, you're courting death. Tear him apart. Bite him to death. Eat him. When the monsters heard Liu's words, they were immediately furious and roared as they charged forward. Weapons with flowing brilliance were waved one after another. Spiritual light shot out in all directions, and their momentum was monstrous. Just a bunch of chickens and pottery dogs. Liu sneered disdainfully and swept out with his fingers like a sword. Clang! A shrill sword howl resounded through the sky. The water-like sword light tore through the sky, cutting through everything. With a slash of the sword, the wind and clouds changed color, and heaven and earth were frightened. Puff! 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 The sword light swept across, and a series of breaking sounds were incessant. It cut through the ruins of the buildings, all kinds of weapons, and all the monsters. Even the air in front of him had a huge crack that could not be closed for a long time. Boom! The broken buildings collapsed with a loud bang. Clank! The broken weapons fell to the ground. Patter! The corpses of the monsters and monsters fell to the ground. Ancestor is mighty. Zhou shouted excitedly. Chapter 29. The path of the great emperor is different from that of the mortal world's emperor. Liu smiled at Zhou and walked to the corpses of the monsters. He waved his hand and stored the broken weapons and corpses into the system. Turning his head to look at Zhou, Liu continued, the mortal world's emperor can be benevolent and righteous, but it is different between cultivators. How can people be convinced if they are not domineering? If you want to be invincible in the world, you can only conquer with strength. Liu pointed to the broken tiles and ruins in front of him and shook his head with a smile. This is the capital city of the demon emperor back then. With the body of a demon, he conquered the 4 directions, was invincible in the world, and finally achieved the great emperor. Do you think other races will submit if he doesn't conquer with dominance? Disciple understands. Zhou bowed and accepted the teaching. It's good that you understand. Liu smiled and nodded. Next, you will start cultivating. I have passed on the Tao Scripture Sea of Reincarnation Scroll to you. You have the Book of the Highest Heavens, and I know a little about its functions. I will give you 2 more demon corpses. With a wave of his hand, he released the corpses of the 2 transformed demons. Liu said to Zhou, start with this. Once your cultivation improves, go outside to train. Kill demon beasts and pick spiritual herbs. Kill your way to the great emperor in life and death, blood and fire. Yes, Zhou nodded heavily. I'm going out. If there's anything, just call me. Speaking of this, Liu paused and said, however, don't call me unless it's a matter of life and death. If you develop the habit of being sheltered by me, how can you achieve the great emperor? Yes, Zhou nodded in agreement, then raised his head and asked, Ancestral Master, are you leaving? Not for the time being. At least not before you sweep the land of Yen. Liu smiled. I can only teach you for a year. After a year, I will really be gone. You will have to rely on yourself in the future. Ancestral Master. Zhou suddenly felt a little suffocated in his heart and didn't know how to speak. Work hard to grow. I'll wait for the day you become a great emperor. Liu smiled and nodded. Then, a streak of light shot up and disappeared into the horizon. Your Majesty, what the Tao ancestor said is priceless advice. The path of a great emperor required fearless courage and invincible confidence. If you develop a reliance on the Tao ancestor, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to achieve anything. Your Majesty, your path is under your own feet. The spirit of the heavenly book reminded Zhou Yi in time. Yes, my path is under my own feet. Zhou Yi clenched his fists tightly. Spirit of the heavenly book, retrieve the demon race's corpse. An invisible wave swept across, and the two corpses instantly disappeared. Your Majesty, we have retrieved 2 celestial bridge realm demon corpses. You can refine the life essence of the demon body to cultivate. All right, extracting the life force of a monster body. Pass the Tao Scripture Sea of Reincarnation scroll to me. I'm going to start cultivating. Zhou Yi sat cross-legged and ordered the spirit of the heavenly book in his heart. In the streak of light, Liu nodded when he saw this scene. I was worried that this kid would bite off more than he could chew. I didn't expect him to know how to be down to earth and move forward step by step. Not bad. Leaving Zhou Yi, who was cultivating on his own, Liu rode the streak of light and flew all the way. System, indicate the location of the remnant soul of Emperor Qing's descendant. The system instantly indicated the location, and Liu rode the streak of light toward the destination. The purpose of this trip was this remnant soul. In the original work, the remnant soul that failed to possess Pang Bo and instead became Pang Bo was Liu's target. The remnant soul itself was nothing, but it was the remnant soul of a direct descendant of the great emperor after all. He could extract the secret manuals of cultivation methods, cultivation insights, and combat experience from it. These things were very useful to Liu. A moment later, Liu landed on a piece of land that was scorched black and dead. Is this the place? Looking up and sweeping the dead land, Liu frowned slightly. This vast piece of land was deathly still, without the slightest hint of life. A gloomy and terrifying aura filled the air, making Liu feel uncomfortable all over. He stepped into the charred and dead land. Liu found that this place seemed to have once been a building, but was directly smashed into powder by some unknown force. Even a large piece of land had become a charred and barren land. What a powerful force! Seeing the destruction caused by this blow, Liu couldn't help but be speechless. Boom! A huge shock suddenly appeared in the charred ruins. A huge black cloud of smoke suddenly rushed up from the ground. Liu only felt a huge shock under his feet, and he almost couldn't stand steadily. Is it coming? The corners of Liu's mouth curled into a sneer, but his face was filled with fear and panic as he cried out, what's going on? Bang, bang, bang. Black shadows rushed out of the black cloud of smoke and whistled down from the sky. Huh? What's this? One after another, dried corpses fell from the sky and smashed down on Liu. Although Liu could cut these dried corpses into pieces with a casual sword chi, he couldn't make a move and could only dodge in a sorry state. He wanted to attract the remnant soul, so he naturally couldn't show too much strength. Otherwise, when the remnant soul ran away, how could Liu have the time to slowly find it? Dodging the falling dried corpses, Liu pretended to be scared and shivered. Swish! At this moment, 2 green lights rushed out of the black cloud and wanted to possess Liu's body. I've been waiting for you. Looking at the 2 green lights whistling toward him, Liu secretly sneered and opened the resource collection function of the system. Swish! With a flash of brilliance, the 2 green lights completely rushed into Liu's body. In an instant, Liu only felt his whole body was icy cold, as if he was frozen. Ha ha! It's a natural saint body. The heavens are really helping me. Ha ha! In his mind, there was an extremely joyful laughter. Boy, thank you for sending me such a good body. I'll let you die a quick death. Excuse me. Liu laughed. You rushed in like this. Did you not think that this could be a trap? Trap? The voice in his mind paused for a moment, and then laughed loudly. A mere bitter sea stage cultivation. A trap? What trap do you have? Take it out, and let me see. See if you can do anything to me? As you wish. Liu smiled, and ordered the system in his mind. Target remnant soul. Retrieve. There was a shrill scream in his mind, and then it vanished without a trace. One remnant soul has been retrieved. Directly decompose. Extract cultivation techniques. Extract cultivation insights. Extract battle experience. The rest is refined into pure mental power. Liu smiled. The Azure Emperor's longevity scripture, the 8 styles of Sky Demon, the 9 slashes of the Demon Emperor, these are all unparalleled skills. After retrieving this remnant soul, not only can I directly obtain cultivation techniques without consuming energy, but I also obtain cultivation insights and battle experience. Not bad, a small gain. Looking up at the volcano in the distance, Liu smiled again. Next is the tomb of the Demon Emperor, the Azure Lotus Emperor weapon, the heart of the Demon Emperor. These are all good things. Ha ha. Chapter 30. With a turn of the light, Liu rose into the air. A moment later, Liu landed in front of the main hall. He walked in the main hall and saw Zhou Yi cultivating. Streams of essence circulated and the sea of misery rumbled. It seemed to have reached the critical moment of the sea of misery's opening. Not bad. The sea of misery is about to be successfully opened. Liu nodded, found a place to sit down, and began to check his previous gains. Although the remnant soul of the Azure Emperor's descendant did not have top-notch cultivation, his skills were very authentic. Whether it was the Emperor's scripture, 9 slashes of the Demon Emperor, or the 8 styles of the Sky Demon, they were all supreme techniques. More importantly, these cultivation methods and secret techniques did not require energy to be used. Although the system had scanned all the resources in this world, each of them required energy to be exchanged. Even if the secret techniques consumed very little energy, there were only a total of 1,000 points of energy. How could you be willing to spend it casually? This kind of material object that could be used without consuming energy was Liu's favorite. Cultivation insights and combat experience are very useful. Liu nodded and turned his gaze to the group of demons that he had killed earlier. System: extract the Transfiguration Demon's cultivation techniques, cultivation insights, and combat experience. Although it's not very useful, it can also enrich the resource library. Decompose the rest into energy directly. After decomposing, the system's energy increased a little, reaching more than 2,000 points. I'll stay in this world for a year. There's the demon saint-level crocodile ancestor's true body, the immortal sword Heavenly Lake, and the crocodile ancestor's saint-level armor, a sacred weapon longsword. Under normal circumstances, I'll have no problem protecting myself. Liu looked up at the volcanic crater and smiled. If I can obtain the Green Lotus Emperor weapon and the heart of the Demon Emperor, I'll be even safer. Buzz, with a trembling sound, a brilliant light bloomed. Zhou Yi, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, had a layer of dazzling light circulating around his body. The sea of misery has been opened. There's even a phenomenon. It seems that his foundation is not bad. Liu smiled and nodded, praising. However, what he meant was that his foundation was only not bad. In the end, his essence is still a little weak. If he wants to be successful, he will have to exchange for a strong physique. Liu smiled. Zhou Yi is also a descendant of the Ji family. Of course, he has to have the Ji family's divine body, the void imperial scripture, and the Eastern Baron godly physique. Only these are worthy of being the descendant of a great emperor. Patriarch. At this time, the Book of Changes had already finished. Seeing Liu guarding by his side, Zhou Yi was moved. Is the founder still worried about my safety? Yes. The sea of bitterness has been opened. Not bad. Liu nodded at Zhou Yi. If you want to go far on the road to cultivation, you must have a solid foundation. Although your foundation isn't bad, you're still a little lacking if you want to compete with the current generation's geniuses. Ancestral Master, please guide me. Hearing Liu's words, Zhou Yi hurriedly knelt on the ground and consulted Liu. Although you are the descendant of a great emperor, your bloodline is a little thin. If you want to strengthen your foundation, you have to start with your bloodline. Liu stood up and smiled at Zhou Yi. Don't be in a hurry to improve your cultivation. The foundation is the foundation of everything. I understand. Zhou, he nodded seriously. Yes. Then you should get ready first. I'll take a look around. Liu nodded, stepped out of the hall, and rushed to the crater of the volcano. In this volcano, there was the tomb of Emperor Qing. Although there were still a few months before the tomb appeared, Liu wanted to try to get it in advance. The escape light fell to the crater of the volcano. In front of him was a raging flame. The hot magma boiled in the crater of the volcano, reflecting the sky red. It's so hot. Even though Li Yu had exchanged with the innate sacred body, Tao Embryo, his tyrannical body still couldn't withstand the heat. Activate resource collection and collect heat. An invisible black hole appeared around Li Yu. The surrounding heat surged wildly, but it couldn't have any effect on Li Yu. Not bad. Li Yu nodded, walked to the crater of the volcano, and came to the side of the tumbling magma lake. The Azure Thearcha's grave is a huge hall that is buried in the scorching lava. If I collect this magma, can I find Emperor Qing's tomb directly? Li Yu thought, and he was eager to give it a try. Anyway, even if I don't succeed, collecting this magma can replenish the system's energy. Let's give it a try. He waved his hand toward the magma lake, and an invisible black hole was born in the magma lake. Boom! The entire magma lake shook violently, and huge magma waves rose. A huge whirlpool appeared in the magma lake, and the tumbling magma kept rushing into the whirlpool and disappearing. It works. Liu couldn't help but laugh when he saw this situation. System decomposed the collected magma and converted into energy. As time passed, the magma lake slowly lowered, and the energy number in the system kept jumping up. 25,000, 3,000 for 1,000, great. Even if I can't find Emperor Qing's tomb, this energy is worth it. Seeing the increasing energy in the system, Liu beamed with joy. With energy, it was convenient to do anything. Liu floated on the surface of the magma lake. Looking at the decreasing magma lake and the faint light in the magma, Liu was very happy. System confirmed the location of Emperor Qing's tomb and increased the speed of collecting the magma. Boom! The magma lake shook violently again, and the magma lake's surface lowered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Gradually, a large hall that radiated with brilliant light gradually appeared. Not long after, the hall emerged from the magma. This was a majestic and gorgeous hall. The entire hall was made of 5-color divine jade, and it was crystal clear. It was overflowing with colorful lights, and it looked extremely mystical. On the walls and foundation of the hall, there were countless ancient words engraved. The words were simple, like vines, dragons, snakes, and even some dragons, phoenixes, turtles, and cheilants. They looked very mysterious. This is the Emperor Qing's tomb? Li Yu's eyes lit up, and he was overjoyed. Ha ha ha! This item is fated with eye. Li Yu arrived in front of the main hall in a flash. Crack! A dazzling brilliance blossomed as a massive wave of energy surged out like a tsunami. Damn! Li Yu was shocked and quickly drew out the power of the crocodile ancestor's corpse to form a light screen in front of him, blocking the impact. Crack! After blocking for a while, the light screen formed by the demon sage's cultivation began to crack. I don't believe I can't block it. Li Yu gritted his teeth and waved his hand to release the black gold armor of the crocodile ancestor. Even if it didn't fit, he put on temporarily. Clang! The sword chi in the immortal sword Heavenly Lake exploded violently and slashed at the incoming force. Chapter 31. Boom! A huge shock wave surged, shaking the earth and mountains. Even the walls of the volcano crater were smashed. Fortunately, Li Yu had collected the magma. Otherwise, the magma would have overflowed and flooded the surrounding buildings. Phew! Finally, it's over. Li Yu panted heavily, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Good heavens! It took almost 3 saint-level cultivators to block this energy. System, scan the source of this energy. With the energy, Li Yu is no longer as petty as a miser. The energy came from the seal. Li Yu was stunned for a moment. He suddenly remembered that the Qing Thearcha's tomb would only appear a few months later. At that time, the seal's energy would be exhausted. Now, that Liu had brought it forward, there was still some energy left in the seal. Liu happened to encounter this energy explosion just now. Damn, Liu looked depressed. This seal was probably set up by the Qing Thearcha's descendants or subordinates. Even after countless years, the power of the remaining energy was comparable to a saint-level cultivator. What kind of cultivation level did the person who set up the seal back then have? Fortunately, after this energy explosion, the seal had been broken. Liu kept the mystic gold armor with lingering fear. He raised his head and looked at the colorful and gorgeous hall. The entire hall is made of 5-colored divine jade. Tycoon. He's really a tycoon. Stopping in front of the hall, Liu didn't continue to approach it. Instead, had another idea. System, can I collect the entire hall together with the things inside? This was Liu's plan. After such a big scare, how could he vent his anger if he didn't take the whole thing away? Moreover, saving was a virtue. He couldn't waste it. The specified volume of the item exceeds the user's authority. Liu was stunned. It can't be. There's such a thing? Wait a minute. The system only said that it exceeds the user's authority, but it didn't say that I can't collect it. That means Liu's eyes lit up. System, what is the price to pay to collect the entire hall? Energy consumption, 500 points. Temporary activation of the recycling channel. Do you want to activate it? Activate. Of course. It was only 500 points of energy. The energy gained from collecting the magma had increased the system's energy to 5,000 points. Liu did not care about this small amount of money. Shwa, an invisible wave swept through the entire hall. In the blink of an eye, the huge 5-colored hall disappeared. He had struck it rich. We've struck it rich. Liu was overjoyed when he saw the 5-color palace appear in the system resource warehouse. The green Lotus Emperor weapon, the heart of the demon Tharch. There were also countless weapons and artifacts. Even the Tao scripture, the Sea of Reincarnation scroll, and the green copper fragment of the Immortal Ascension cauldron were all inside. He was simply packing them up and taking them away. Liu shot out from the crater and landed in front of the Grand Hall at the foot of the mountain. Patriarch, you've returned. Seeing Liu return, Zhou Yi hurriedly stepped forward to salute. Liu nodded and turned his head to take a look at Zhou Yi. He found that his blood and qi were surging, and there was a faint flash of divine light. You used the supreme heavenly book to purify your bloodline? Your bloodline has improved a lot, but it's not a divine body yet. Patriarch, you're right. Zhou Yi replied with a smile. I just used the demon race's corpse to exchange for some energy to improve my bloodline. It's just that the energy is insufficient, so it's far from a divine body. I see. Liu smiled. In that case, I'll lend you a hand. Liu was in a good mood as he had just gained a lot. Seeing that Zhou Yi was still lacking, he was naturally happy to reward him. He pretended to wave his hand and sprinkled a little spiritual light. In fact, he had exchanged for a divine body from the system and designated the target as Zhou Yi. The spiritual light sprinkled down, and the divine body transformed. Your Majesty, thanks to Patriarch's grace, your bloodline has been comprehensively improved. You have obtained a complete divine body bloodline. The transformation of the divine body has begun. Please be prepared, Your Majesty. A hot flow like magma instantly rushed into Zhou Yi's body. Zhou intuitively felt that his whole body was being crushed and reconstructed bit by bit. The intense pain made Zhou Yi unable to help but cry out. I was in so much pain at that time. Now you should also have a taste of this. Seeing Zhou Yi screaming in pain and rolling on the ground, Liu laughed in his heart. A moment later, the transformation of the divine body was completed. Zhou Yi turned over and got up from the ground. When he saw his body, he was stunned. This is the divine body. Divine brilliance rose quietly like moonlight sprinkling down. Life essence boiled in his body like a wave. His whole body was flawless, and divine brilliance shone brightly. His skin was overflowing with light, as if it was not a body of flesh and blood at all, but made of divine jade. The G family's divine body is indeed extraordinary. At this point, your foundation can be considered solid. Liu looked at Zhou Yi and nodded with a smile, but he secretly shook his head in his heart. Although the divine body was extraordinary, it was far inferior to the innate sacred body and Taoist embryo. Thank you, Patriarch. Thank you, Patriarch. Zhou Yi was overjoyed and hurriedly thanked Liu. And, since the divine body has been formed and the sea of bitterness has been opened, you could be considered to have crossed the threshold. Liu nodded, stretched out his hand, and a 1-foot-long short sword appeared in his hand. This was one of the countless weapons collected in the Qing Thearchus tomb. A Sea of Reincarnation Realm spirit weapon was considered trash among trash in the Qing Thearchus collection. Handing the short sword to Zhou Yi, Liu said, "You now have a foundation. The next step is to keep cultivating and fighting. The nearby mountains and forests are suitable for you to train." Yes. Zhou Yi took the short sword and left with the order. Looking at Zhou Yi's departing back, Liu smiled. The novice equipment and novice reward have been given to you. The next step is to see how far you can go. Looking around the hall, Liu frowned when he saw that the entire hall was covered with dust and looked dilapidated. I still have to stay in this place for a while. Let's take care of it. Liu waved his hand and collected the dust in the hall with the system. The entire hall suddenly became clean and tidy. It looks much more comfortable like this. Taking a futon from the collection in the Qing Thearchus tomb, Liu sat down and began to check the harvest in the Qing Thearchus tomb. System, extract all the items in the Qing Thearchus tomb and store them by category. Liu gave the order, and the system instantly stored all kinds of items in the resource warehouse. There's so many things. Seeing the sudden increase of all kinds of physical materials in the resource warehouse, even though Liu was mentally prepared, he was still shocked. The Qing the Arch is a great emperor. Although he didn't put everything here, these are still very scary. I'm rich. Haha, I'm rich. Chapter 32. This is the Green Lotus, the Arch weapon. Looking at the Green Lotus in the system warehouse, Liu felt a little incredulous. It was a light red lotus with dark green leaves and a straight and slightly tender green stem. It looks like a freshly plucked lotus. It looks ordinary and nothing special, but it's actually a Dharch weapon made by the lotus, Dharch himself. Liu sighed and had no intention of taking it out to take a look. It was better not to take it out unless it was absolutely necessary. Liu looked away from the green lotus, Dharch weapon, and looked at the heart that was still beating. The heart of the demon Dharch. Liu was shocked when he saw the vitality surging in the heart. This vitality and energy are many times stronger than the crocodile ancestor's body. This thing is another source of energy for me. Liu couldn't help but laugh. With the heart of the demon Dharch, he could use the energy of the heart of the demon Dharch to activate other skills without consuming the system's energy. The next important thing was the immortal tripod fragment, the green copper piece. This thing was extraordinary, but it wasn't very useful to Liu. I'll keep it first. The opportunity to become an immortal is really meaningless to me. Liu ignored the green copper piece. The one-page golden book of the Tao scripture was also not very useful, so he directly skipped it. The rest are the various weapons, artifacts, and miscellaneous items in the Lotus Thearchus tomb. There were a lot of things, especially the miscellaneous items that seemed to be buried with the Lotus Thearchus tomb. There were all kinds of clothes made of snow, silkworm, heavenly silk, and utensils made of jade. All right, at least these things are made of extraordinary materials. They can still be used after some modification. Liu shook his head and didn't care about these miscellaneous items. System, arranged the weapons and artifacts according to their grades. With a whoosh, the system arranged all the weapons and treasures according to Liu's request. TSK. There are actually so many good things. Liu couldn't help but take a deep breath when he saw the weapons and artifacts arranged by the system. There are actually more than a dozen treasures that are above sacred weapons. There's even a sacred ruler divine weapon, as expected of Emperor Qing. He actually left behind so many good things. Liu was unable to restrain his joy and laughed heartily. There were over 1,000 weapons below Saint weapons, but Liu directly ignored these things. Liu stared at the Saint Ruler Divine weapon. It was a small bronze bell about an inch in size with a green thread tied to it. The name given by the system gave Liu a fright. Soul Buster Clock? Liu frowned. According to the memories of his previous life, this thing should be some kind of magical weapon from a fairy tale, right? Thinking that this world even had the 4 immortal slaying swords, Liu felt relieved. This thing is unremarkable, but its power is extraordinary. I can carry it with me. Liu took out the Soul Buster Clock and tied the thread to his belt, hanging it on his body. A weapon that directly attacks one's mind, and it's a sacred ruler divine weapon. With this in hand, as long as I don't court death, I basically don't have to worry about my safety. Liu reached out and touched the Soul Buster Clock as a joyful smile appeared on his face. Wait a minute. I've never been lacking in attack power. What I lack is defense. My own strength is too weak, and I've just opened up the sea of misery. If I don't defend in time, I'll die from sneak attack. Liu hurriedly looked for defensive means in the resource warehouse, but he realized that most of the Emperor Qing's collection were offensive weapons, and there were no defensive treasures. This made Liu frown deeply. System, can the black gold armor refined from the crocodile ancestor scale armor be modified? The only thing that could be used was the sacred ruler black gold armor. But this armor was too big, and Liu couldn't wear it all. It can be modified after consuming a certain amount of energy. It can be modified? Hearing that it could be modified, Liu was overjoyed. But soon his face fell. Liu was now playing the role of a Dao ancestor. Even if the armor was modified to fit him, would it make sense for a Dao ancestor to wear armor? Then can I retain the original defense power and modify it into a long robe? Liu didn't give up and asked. However, the answer given by the system surprised him. Yes, damn, it can be done. Liu didn't have much hope at first and just asked reluctantly. He didn't expect it to really work. The almighty ability of the system surprised Liu. According to my figure, modify it according to the style of the ancient robe in the Emperor Qing's tomb. As for the color, I'll choose white. The white robe is whiter than snow, and the sword aura is like frost. This is my fantasy when I was having a wuxia dream back then. The system completed the modification in an instant, but it consumed more than 800 points of energy. Damn, it's really a little expensive. The corner of Liu's mouth twitched a few times, but he didn't care. He waved his hand and took out the newly modified saint-level long robe. Seeing the fine and soft silk threads, if Liu didn't know its origin, he wouldn't have thought that it was actually modified from the armor of the crocodile ancestor. Not bad, not bad. My safety is guaranteed now. After taking off the green robe and changing into the white robe, Liu spun around on the spot and felt that he was really handsome. After showing off for a while, Liu put the green robe into the resource warehouse. Looking down at the pair of gray cloth boots under his feet, Liu pursed his lips. This pair of boots really affects the overall image. Change it. I have to change it. Fortunately, there were also some exquisite boots among the various sundries in the Emperor Qing's tomb. Although the material was extraordinary, it was just ordinary sundries. It didn't take much energy to modify it to fit. After changing into the boots, Liu found that the belt on his body was too low grade. Then, he took a jade belt and tied it around his waist. His whole body looked brand new. Liu only felt that his whole body was extremely comfortable. Good, good, good. After making a fortune, of course, I have to wear good clothes. Who will say that I'm a poor loser when I wear this? Who will say that I'm a country bumpkin? Well, at this moment, Liu revealed the nature of a loser again. It could be seen how deep his resentment in his previous life was. He wore a quaint white robe with a jade belt that was crystal clear like mutton fat jade. A quaint and elegant small bell was tied around his waist, and a pair of exquisite leather boots made of milky white scales on his feet. He's so handsome. Liu praised a few times smugly and felt very comfortable in his heart. The quality of life had improved greatly. The life of a nouveau riche was not far away. He walked out of the main hall. Looking up in the direction of Zhou Yi, Liu smiled. This kid is fine for the time being. Let him kill monsters and level up here first. Oh no, I'll go out for a tour first. What's the saying? The universe is vast. I want to go and see it. Ha ha. With a cheerful laugh, the escape lights soared into the sky. Chapter 33. The light flashed across the sky. Soon after, a small town appeared in front of Liu. I've been here for so long, but I haven't seen the local customs of this world. Let's go to this town and have a look. Liu landed on the ground in the distance, then walked towards the town along the road. Arriving in front of the town, Liu found that it was just a small town with a small population. However, there were people coming and going, so it was not deserted. Walking into the town, Liu looked up and found that the style of the whole town was similar to the ancient town in his previous life. Walking all the way in the town, the pedestrians on the road saw the well-dressed and extraordinary Liu, and they all stepped aside and made way for him. It seems that the concept of hierarchy in this world is very serious. Liu sighed slightly. In this world where power determines status, the status of ordinary people must be very low. After walking around, Liu stopped in front of a restaurant. Since coming to this world, I haven't eaten anything here. Liu smiled and walked into the restaurant. Sir, please. A manservant, who looked like a waiter, came up to greet them. Find a private room and bring up your best wine and dishes. Liu waved his hand like a nouveau riche. Okay. The waiter agreed and led Liu to a private room upstairs. Entering the private room, Liu looked up and glanced around the room and found that the so-called private room was just a slightly more exquisite room. It's just so. Liu curled his lips and sat down at the table in the room and secretly complained in his heart, it's too far from heavenly earth. Well, in his previous life, Liu did not go to the so-called heavenly earth. He was just a little envious of the so-called emperor's enjoyment in heavenly earth. Not long after, the waiter served the wine and dishes. Sir, this is our restaurant specialty. This is braised cloud deer lips. This is stir-fried jade orchid. This is... Okay, that's enough. Liu waved his hand to interrupt the waiter's long-winded reporting of the dishes. He raised his chopsticks and picked up a piece of the so-called braised cloud deer lips, putting it in his mouth and tasting it. Yes, the meat was tender and refreshing. Not bad, not bad. Liu took a bite and realized that this so-called cloud deer lips tasted pretty good. He had never tasted this kind of meat before and felt that it was quite interesting. Liu, who was focused on eating meat, did not notice the strange look in the waiter's eyes when he said, not bad, not bad. The taste of the dishes was very novel. Whether it was meat or vegetables, they all had a fresh smell. This should be related to the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in this world. As Liu ate the food, he could feel the spiritual qi contained within the food. He could not help but nod his head. No wonder this world can produce so many powerful existences. Sure enough, it's full of spiritual qi. Even ordinary items contain spiritual qi. Not long after, the dishes were finished, and Liu was also full. Waiter, the bill. Sir, the dishes on your table cost a total of 1,000 gold. The waiter stood in front of Liu. The smile on his face seemed to have a hint of mockery. Huh? Liu was stunned for a moment. 1,000 gold? Although Liu did not know how much this 1,000 gold was worth. But from the waiter's expression, it was obvious that this was a rip-off. What the hell? You're even trying to rip off me? At this moment, Liu thought of fish roe by the size, green prawns by the size, and other classic rip-off tricks. 1,000 gold was actually meaningless to Liu. He could casually spend a few energy points to exchange for a bunch of these things in the system. The problem wasn't the 1,000 gold coins, but Liu's face. Ever since he entered this world, everything had been smooth sailing. Even the cultivators of the 6 grotto heavens were extremely obedient in front of Liu. But today, he was actually being bullied by a mortal. If this spread out, where would this brother put his face? Liu's expression had already turned cold. What? No money? The waiter glanced at Liu in disdain and sneered, a country bumpkin who can't even differentiate between a pig's mouth and a deer's mouth dares to put on an act? I don't know where you stole this outfit from, but with your hair disheveled, you still dare to pretend to be a young master? What the hell? I'm actually being looked down on by a waiter. Deer's mouth and pig's mouth can't be distinguished, because this brother has never eaten it before. As for disheveled hair, this brother doesn't know how to tie my hair. Liu is depressed in his heart. If you don't have money, that bell on your waist is not bad. I'll use him to pay off the debt. The waiter glanced at the bell on Liu's waist and sneered. You stole this spiritual weapon from the owner's house, right? And hung it on your waist, so ostentatiously? Anyone who knows a little about cultivation can see the spiritual light on it. Huh, so that's the case. Liu already understood. After beating around the bush in such a big circle, it turned out that this waiter was coveting his soul-shaking clock. Using a sage monarch divine weapon as food money, one idea. You trying to bully me? Liu snorted and stared at the waiter. Waiter, don't cause trouble for yourself, and don't cause trouble for the owner. Cause trouble? Cause trouble? The waiter glanced at Liu in disdain and sneered. Do you know who owns this restaurant? This is the Li family's restaurant. The young masters of the Li family are all cultivating in the Haze Grotto Heaven. You dare to behave atrociously here? Haze Grotto Heaven? Liu recalled that there seemed to be someone from the Haze Grotto Heaven among the people who bullied Zhou Yi and wanted him to hand over the treasure. Cultivating. How dare a useless person call himself an immortal? Liu shook his head in disdain. With a thought, a huge aura soared into the sky. His whole body was shining with divine light. An immortal chi lingered in all directions. Immortal? Immortal? When the waiter saw this situation, he was scared out of his wits and fell to the ground with a plop. How unlucky must one be to encounter such a thing? Oomph. Liu snorted coldly and sent the waiter flying with a flick of his sleeve. He got up and walked out of the restaurant. I was actually looked down upon by a waiter. Liu's interest suddenly waned, and he felt that his one-day trip this time was really a failure to the extreme. Mortals can't appreciate this young master's charm. It seems that I can only pretend to be an expert in front of cultivators. Liu shook his head and was about to leave this place on a streak of light when he suddenly heard the discussions of the people on the side of the road, which made Liu stop. Old man Jiang is so miserable. Yeah, poor little Ting, she can't even eat now. Their family used to be doing well. Their son and daughter-in-law have both entered immortal sex and have a family and a business. I didn't expect, Sai. The Li family is too despicable. Not to mention that they took over their family business. They didn't even let the elderly and children go and bullied them. Sure. Do you want to die? If others hear you, you'll suffer. Several passers-by stopped their discussion and looked around in a panic. Then, they parted ways and left. Ting? Old man Jiang? Could it be such a coincidence? Liu was stunned for a moment, then laughed again. Ting? Could it be that tying physique? It seems that I have to go and take a look. Chapter 34. System. Indicate the location of the extreme in-body. Following the direction indicated by the system, Liu walked forward and arrived in front of a rundown shop. There was a crowd in front of the shop. Old man, how dare you ask me for money for a meal? Beat him. Beat this dog to death. Woo. Don't beat him. Don't beat my grandpa. Don't beat my grandpa. The sound of cursing, kicking, and crying of a little girl came through the crowd. Seeing this scene, Liu frowned. He waved his hand to separate the crowd and walked forward. In the middle of the field, an old man with a withered face was lying on the ground. His white hair was disheveled, and there were many bloodstains on his face. His clothes were full of patches, and there were even footprints on them. A middle-aged man with a yellow face stood on the field with his arms crossed and a cold smile on his face. 3 young men surrounded the old man, cursing and laughing. Every time the old man struggled to get up, he would be kicked down by these people. Woo. Don't beat my grandpa. You bad guys. Woo. A little girl of 5 or 6 years old sat on the ground and cried out weakly with a hoarse voice. Stop. Seeing the lonely old man and young child being bullied like this, Liu couldn't help but feel angry. With strength came confidence. Roar when you see injustice, and take action when you should. How could Liu not care when the descendants of the great emperor and the direct descendant of the Jiang clan were bullied to this extent? Where did this hothead come from? How dare he interfere with our Li clan's business? The middle-aged man with a yellow face turned around and glanced at Liu from the corner of his eyes. He snorted, "Kid, meddling in other people's business will only bring trouble to yourself. If you don't want to die, scram." Ha ha, he must have eaten a leopard's guts. There's actually someone who dares to stand out? He really doesn't know what death is. How dare he provoke our Li clan? Kid, if you don't want to die, scram. The three young men laughed heartily as they surrounded Liu. They clenched their fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. "Little brother, hurry up and leave." Old man Jiang struggled to get up from the ground and kept waving at Liu, telling him to leave quickly. "Leave?" The yellow-faced, middle-aged man sneered. "You think you can leave? Since you dare to stand up for me, I naturally have to teach you a lesson. Brat, remember, you have to have the ability to meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died. Break his limbs and throw him out of town." The yellow-faced, middle-aged man waved his hand and sneered disdainfully. In the past few years, he had used the prestige of the main family to oppress the people and was used to being a tyrant. He was very experienced in dealing with this kind of thing. Scram! With a roar, a tyrannical energy rushed out along with the sound. The three young men who were surrounding him were directly sent flying and fell heavily to the ground. "Ah, broken. My arm is broken. Ah, my leg is broken too." The three youths who fell to the ground hugged their arms and supported their legs, howling miserably on the ground. The yellow-faced, middle-aged man's expression changed greatly. He was shocked and angry in his heart. He pointed at Liu and shouted, "You dare to attack us? We're from the Li family. Our family's young masters are cultivating in the Mist Grotto. Brat, you..." Noisy. Liu's face was as cold as frost. He snorted coldly, and another burst of energy rushed out, sending the yellow-faced, middle-aged man flying. "Take these lackeys and get out of here." Liu swung his sleeves and roared at the yellow-faced, middle-aged man. "Yes, yes, yes." The yellow-faced, middle-aged man quickly helped the three young men up and fled in a sorry state. "Good, well done. These dogs who bully others because of their master's power need to be taught a lesson." The onlookers immediately cheered when they saw Liu beat the lackeys away. "Stop shouting. The Li family is not to be trifled with. Do you want to cause trouble for your family?" An old man reminded. Everyone's expression changed, and they scattered in all directions. "Thank you for your help, little brother." Old man Jiang came up with the little girl and bowed to Liu to express his gratitude. "Big brother, you're amazing." The little girl looked at Liu with admiration. Her big watery eyes didn't blink and looked very cute. "You're welcome, old man." Liu smiled and reached out to support old man Jiang. He glanced at old man Jiang and found that the old man was bleeding from the corner of his mouth. It seemed that he had suffered a serious injury. "Old man, you're injured. Let me help you inside to rest." With that, Liu supported old man Jiang and took the little girl into the dilapidated store. "Little brother, you should go quickly." As soon as they entered and sat down, old man Jiang couldn't wait to say to Liu, "Little brother, the Li family has a great background. Someone in the family is cultivating in the Mist Grotto. You'll be in danger if you stay here. Go. Yes. Big brother, go quickly. These people are very bad. If you don't go, they'll bully you." The little girl stood next to him and looked at Liu anxiously with her eyes wide open. "Don't be afraid. Big brother is very powerful." Liu smiled at the little girl and turned to look at old man Jiang. "Old man, you're seriously injured. Let me treat you." "Little brother, there's no need. Go quickly." Before old man Jiang could finish his words, he was stunned by the scene in front of him. Liu smiled and stretched out a finger. A gorgeous spiritual light flowed on his fingertip. The divine light was brilliant like a brilliant firework. The spiritual light sprinkled down like rain. Little by little, the spiritual light merged into Old Man Jiang's body. Old Man Jiang felt as if his whole body was soaked in warm spring water, and vitality bloomed in his body. The pain in his body disappeared. The old cough was gone, and his back was no longer sore. His whole body seemed to be full of strength, as if his body had returned to its prime. Hee, Grandpa, your hair has become darker, and the wrinkles on your face have lessened. The little girl widened her eyes and looked at this magical scene. She clapped her hands and laughed. Big Brother is so powerful. Big Brother is so powerful. Cultivator? Old Man Jiang saw the magical changes in his body and looked up at Li Yu in surprise. So, little brother is a cultivator. It's just the rejuvenation technique. Li Yu smiled and turned to find a stool in the shop to sit down. Old man, I'm also a cultivator. I'm not afraid of the Li family. Don't worry. Little brother, this old man can't thank you enough for your kindness. Old Man Jiang stood up and waved at the little girl. Ting Ting, come here. Let's kowtow to little brother and thank you for your kindness. Don't. You can't. You can't. When Liu heard this, he quickly stood up and stopped him. It was really unbearable for an old man to kowtow to him. Little brother, you'd better leave quickly. Old Man Jiang was stopped by Liu, so he could only stop kowtowing. He stood up and grabbed Liu's hand and was about to walk out. Little brother, the young masters of the Li family are all cultivating in the Mist Grotto Heaven. They are very powerful. Little brother, you should leave as soon as possible. Leave? You want to leave after offending the Li family? An angry roar came from outside the door. Boom! The door of the shop was broken, and a few figures rushed in. Chapter 35. It's this kid. A 25 or 26-year-old young man stared at Liu, flicked his sleeves to sweep away the dust, and walked into the store. Seventh young master, it's this kid. The yellow-faced, middle-aged man entered the room and pointed at Liu. He nodded and bowed towards the Li family's seventh young master and said, Seventh young master, this brat is spouting nonsense. He doesn't put our Li family in his eyes at all. Doesn't put the Li family in his eyes? Humph. The Li family's seventh young master's sinister face carried a cold smile, arrogantly glancing at Liu, and disdainfully curled his lips. Daring to meddle in the matters of the Li family, I thought you had a great background. If your spiritual light doesn't shine, the sea of bitterness won't flow. Isn't he just a mortal? The Li family's seventh young master's gaze fell on the bell at Liu's waist and coldly laughed. Wang Xiao also told me that this was a treasure. Chi, such a dim spiritual light. It's clearly a useless plaything. His gaze turned, and the Li family's seventh young master looked at Ting Ting. I haven't seen you for 2 years. This little girl has grown up. There was an indescribable expression in the Li family's seventh young master's eyes, a faint smile on his lips. Fine, since I know your parents, I'll give you a chance. Little girl, you'll follow me from now on. When you grow up, you will be my concubine. Surnamed Li, don't go too far. Old Man Jiang held Ting Ting in his arms, glaring angrily at the Li family's seventh young master. Too far? You're just a mortal. What do you know? If the little girl follows me, she will enjoy endless riches and glory. It's much better than suffering with you. This is my grace. Don't be ungrateful. The Li family's seventh young master snorted, a cold intent rising in his eyes. Are you done farting? If you're done, then scram. Liu looked at the insufferably arrogant Li family's seventh young master and felt sick of it. With a mere bitter sea-stage cultivation, he was still so arrogant. His tail was raised to the sky. It was really inexplicable. This young master hasn't settled the score with you yet, and you've come out on your own? The seventh young master of the Li family frowned as he looked at Liu. There was a vicious sneer on his thin lips. Since you're so eager to die, I'll send you on your way. Shua, a speck of silver light bloomed. A short silver spear, half a foot long, shot out like a bolt of lightning towards Liu. Be careful. Old Man Jiang cried out in alarm and quickly rushed in front of Liu, wanting to use his own body to block the short spear that was flying towards him. Why must you do this? Liu smiled and pulled Old Man Jiang behind him. He didn't care about the short spear that was flying towards him at all. He didn't even bother to move. Swish! The silver short spear stabbed into Li Yu's chest, but even the clothes on Li Yu's body did not shake. The silver spear was like an ice cube that had fallen into a furnace. It rapidly melted, instantly turning into a puff of smoke and dissipating. This is... Seeing this unbelievable scene, the seventh young master of the Li family opened his eyes wide and was speechless for a long time. "Old man, why must you do this?" Li Yu did not pay any attention to the seventh young master of the Li family. He turned his head to look at Old Man Jiang. "Old man, I'm not afraid of him. Why must you do this?" "Little brother has done me a favor. Seeing my benefactor in danger, how can I stand by and do nothing?" Old Man Jiang looked at Li Yu with a solemn expression. Even though he was old, he still had a heroic spirit, worthy of being the descendant of the great emperor. Li Yu secretly praised in his heart. Even without the slightest strength, he could still step forward at the crucial moment. The descendant of the great emperor was indeed extraordinary. "Ha ha! I know. At this moment, the seventh young master of the Li family suddenly laughed wildly. His two eyes stared at Li Yu as if he had seen a peerless treasure. "So this robe of yours is the real treasure. Ha ha! What good luck. Just a trip home, and such a treasure actually came to my doorstep. This young master of the Li family is really blessed." The Li family's seventh young master laughed heartily as he stared at Li Yu. "Brat, hand over the treasure obediently, and this young master can consider sparing your life. Otherwise, this young master can turn you into ashes with a single spell." Tsk. Li Yu turned his head to look at the seventh young master of the Li family and shook his head in disdain. "It's my fault for letting a fly like you buzz here for so long. So, it's time to correct this mistake. Kid, you're courting death." The seventh young master of the Li family was furious. He waved his hand and released a five-colored haze, which blasted towards Li Yu. "A fly is a fly." Li Yu shook his head. "I can destroy you with just a breath." Huff! Li Yu opened his mouth and gently blew a breath at the seventh young master of the Li family. This breath was very light, as if it was a normal person exhaling. There was no strong wind, no surging clouds, and no shocking phenomenon. There was only a gentle breeze, without any ripples on the water. It was a gentle breeze without any smoke or fire. However, when he gently blew out a breath, the multicolored haze instantly dissipated into thin air. Following closely behind was the seventh young master of the Li family. After this breath dissipated the five-colored haze, it immediately blew onto the seventh young master of the Li family. "Ah!" A shrill scream rushed out from the seventh young master of the Li family. Green smoke rose from the seventh young master of the Li family, as if his entire body was blown away. In the blink of an eye, the seventh young master of the Li family turned into a cloud of smoke and dissipated in the wind. "Ah, what kind of demonic spell is this? Ghost!" The follower of the seventh young master of the Li family saw this horrifying scene and was scared out of his wits. He screamed and ran away. "Little brother, this is..." Old Man Jiang was also shocked. He was very surprised by Li Yu's incredible divine ability. "It's just a Dharma spell. It's not worth mentioning." Li Yu smiled and waved his hand. This was indeed not a very advanced Dharma spell. It was just a simple call the wind technique. However, Li Yu used the energy of the heart of the demon god to cast this Dharma spell. The heart of the demon god was the source of the Lotus Thearka's power. It contained the Dharma powers of the arch. Even if Li Yu had only used a tiny bit of it, not even a billionth of it, it was still not something a character like the Li clan's seventh young master could resist. Little brother is actually so powerful. Old Man Jiang was not an ignorant person. After all, Tingting's parents were both cultivators. Old Man Jiang more or less knew a little. Even if the seventh young master of the Li family was not strong, he was not so weak that he could be blown to death. The only possibility was that Li Yu was simply too powerful. "Benefactor, I am so grateful for your kindness that I am moved to tears." I can't repay you. Old man Jiang was filled with emotions. His eyes were a little red. The death of his son and daughter-in-law must have something to do with the Li family. He was old, and Tingting was young. They were no match for the Li family. They could only let the Li family humiliate them without any resistance. He did not expect to meet Li Yu. He did not expect that there would be a day where he could take revenge. The heavens have eyes. Old man Jiang held Li Yu's hand tightly as tears flowed down his face. Chapter 36. The Li family's courtyard. Old Master Li squinted his eyes as he lay on the soft couch, humming a tune happily. Two young ladies were leaning on his left and right. One of them was gently massaging Old Master Li's shoulders, while the other was tapping Old Master Li's legs. How comfortable! The glory and wealth in front of him, as well as the soft and fragrant women beside him, made Old Master Li feel refreshed. He felt that his days were better than those of a living immortal. His sons and nephews were all cultivating in the haze grotto heaven, so the family didn't lack spirit herbs or immortal pills. They even obtained some superficial qi refinement techniques. Although it wasn't a real immortal technique, it was still an invincible secret technique in the mortal world. After defeating the rising Jiang family and seizing the Jiang family's property, the Li family was now the most powerful family in town. Their wealth and power continued to grow, and the entire family flourished. As the head of the family, Old Master Li felt that he was too wise and powerful. My only remaining opponent is the Wang family. I still have to find a chance to destroy the Wang family. Old Master Li reached out and patted the round body of the woman beside him as he thought contentedly. Old Master, not good, not good. A panicked shout interrupted Old Master Li's pleasant dream. What's the matter? Why are you panicking? Is the sky falling? Old Master Li was displeased as he angrily shouted at the door. Old Master, seventh young master, he's dead. What? Old Master Li turned pale with fright as he suddenly sat up. What's going on? Old Master, a cultivator came to town. I don't know what sorcery he used, but he blew seventh young master to death with one breath. Cultivator? Damn it! Old Master Li was unable to restrain his anger as he kicked the table in front of him. Quickly report to the Haze Grotto Heaven. Just say that a foreign cultivator wants to steal the source, or we discovered and even killed our seventh young master. Ask them to quickly come and help. Yes. The subordinate obeyed the order and left. Old Master Li's face was ashen as he gritted his teeth. No matter who you are, only death awaits you when you offend the Li family. Big brother, your hair is done. Little Tingting put down the wooden comb in her hand and walked from behind Li Yu to the front of Li Yu with a smile. Holding a bronze mirror in front of Li Yu, she asked, Look, do I look good? Yes. Very beautiful. Little Tingting is really amazing. Li Yu took the bronze mirror and looked at himself in the mirror. He smiled and nodded when he saw the handsome figure with his hair tied up with a golden crown. I really don't know how to comb hair. Li Yu shook his head in front of the mirror and shook his head helplessly. It seems that I really need someone to comb my hair. This little Ting seems pretty good. Putting down the mirror, Li Yu turned to look at Xiao Ting, and his expression changed. Little Ting's face was purple, and her whole body was trembling. She swayed as if she was about to fall. Ting, what's wrong with you? What happened to you? Li Yu was shocked and hurriedly reached out to support Xiao Ting. Hiss! Reaching out to support Xiao Ting, Li Yu couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. It was as if he was holding a block of ice. This is because of the extreme body? It's actually so cold? Looking at the little girl's painful appearance and the tears that had frozen into ice beads on her tender little face, Li Yu felt an indescribable pain in his heart. What a pitiful child. She has to suffer so much at such a young age. The extreme body can't live past 20 years, and she often suffers from the corrosion of the cold air. It's a peerless talent, but it's also torture and a curse. Li Yu shook his head slightly and sighed inwardly. Benefactor, I've already prepared the meal. Ah, Ting Ting. Old man Jiang came to call Li Yu to eat. Suddenly seeing Xiao Ting Ting's appearance, he turned pale with fright and screamed as he stumbled over. Ting Ting, Ting Ting. Old man Jiang hugged Xiao Ting Ting in his arms and used his body to warm Xiao Ting Ting's cold body. Tears flowed down his old face. Child, my poor child. Oh heavens, what kind of sin have I committed? Why must such a young child suffer like this? Old man Jiang, perhaps I can cure her. Seeing this, Li Yu's nose turned sour. He really couldn't bear to continue watching. Wasn't it just an earth fate fruit? Could it be more precious than the elixir of immortality? Benefactor, old man Jiang looked at Li Yu with teary eyes and asked in disbelief. Benefactor, can Ting Ting's illness be cured? Yes. Li Yu squatted down and reached out to take Ting Ting from old man Jiang's hands. Old man Jiang, I can cure her. That's great. That's great. Ting Ting can be saved. Ting Ting can be saved. Old man Jiang cried as he knelt in front of Li Yu and kowtowed heavily. Thank you, benefactor. Thank you, benefactor. Old man, you can't. You can't. Li Yu hurriedly helped old man Jiang up. Old man, you don't have to do this. Ting Ting's illness isn't an illness. It's a special constitution. If it's not treated properly, it'll be hard for her to live past 20 years old. But I have a way to cure her. Carrying little Ting Ting, Li Yu found a stool in the courtyard and sat down. The flaw of the extremine body needs an earth fate fruit to make up for it. If I want to exchange for an earth fate fruit, Li Yu slightly frowned. He didn't have enough energy and couldn't use too much. If he wanted to exchange for an earth fate fruit, he would have to think of another way. Looking down at the little girl's pained face, Li Yu took a deep breath and gritted his teeth. System, exchange the elixir of immortality from the forbidden area of the ancient desolation for an earth fate fruit. As soon as he said that, an earth fate fruit appeared in the system's resource storage. But the resources consumed. Only one elixir of immortality was used. Li Yu was stunned. He originally planned to give up all the elixirs of immortality to exchange for an earth fate fruit. He didn't expect the price to be so much lower than expected. Li Yu quickly figured it out. To the system, the value of an item depended on the energy used to create it. The earth fate fruit was extremely precious. However, it was precious because it was almost extinct. That was why it was so precious. In essence, the earth fate fruit was definitely inferior to the elixir of immortality. Li Yu took out the earth fate fruit. Looking at the olive-like fruit, he secretly shook his head. Such an unremarkable thing is actually a life-saving item for the extremine body. Ting Ting, big brother can cure your illness. Come, eat this medicine. You'll be fine soon. Gently putting the earth fate fruit into little Ting Ting's mouth, Li Yu whispered in her ear. Ting Ting seemed to have heard Li Yu's words. Her lips trembled, and she swallowed the earth fate fruit with difficulty. Ding ding. A crisp sound like a wind chime rang out from little Ting Ting's body. Like the moonlight, bright and pure light filled the entire courtyard. Chapter 37. The radiance of the moon filled the courtyard. Ting Ting floated up from Li Yu's arms and floated in the air. A bright silver radiance blossomed from Ting Ting's body, covering everything in the courtyard with a layer of silver radiance. This is too big of a commotion. Li Yu frowned slightly and waved his hand to create a light screen, covering the entire courtyard and covering the bright moonlight. The moonlight grew brighter and brighter. Little Ting Ting, who was floating in the air, could no longer be seen clearly. She turned into a ball of bright moonlight, as if the moon in the sky had fallen into the courtyard. Benefactor, this is... Seeing the scene, old man Jiang opened his mouth wide and was dumbfounded. Extreme physique, cold moon physique. This is a peerless talent. Li Yu looked at little Ting Ting, who had almost turned into a bright moon, and clicked his tongue in admiration. Benefactor, Ting Ting won't be in any danger, right? Old man Jiang was still worried and turned to ask Li Yu. Don't worry, she can't be any better. Li Yu turned his head and smiled at old man Jiang. The manifestation of the extreme physique. This is a rebirth. Okay. Old man Jiang laughed dryly. Even though he understood Li Yu's words, he was still worried. He paced back and forth in the courtyard, not knowing what to do. Fortunately, old man Jiang didn't have to wait for too long. A moment later, the moonlight in the sky gradually disappeared, and Ting Ting's figure slowly descended. After the moonlight completely disappeared, Ting Ting's beautiful figure appeared in front of the two. Grandpa? Big brother? Little Ting Ting opened her eyes. Her pitch-black pupils faintly shone with the brilliance of the silver moon. Ting Ting, how are you? Old man Jiang rushed forward and hugged little Ting Ting, looking her up and down nonstop. Only when he found that she was unharmed did he breathe a sigh of relief. The extreme body is indeed extraordinary. Li Yu looked at the reborn little Ting Ting. He looked at the faint moonlight on her sparkling jade-like skin, the mercury-like spiritual energy flowing through her body and her jade-like body. Li Yu couldn't help but sigh in admiration. Big brother, thank you. Little Ting Ting came in front of Li Yu. She opened her bright eyes and looked up at Li Yu. Her porcelain doll-like face had a pure smile. She looked really cute. I'm not a lolicon. No. Li Yu took a deep breath, dispelling the messy thoughts in his mind. Then, he smiled and nodded at Xiao Tingting. Xiao Tingting, I didn't lie to you. Your illness has been cured. Thank you, big brother. Big brother, you're amazing. Little Tingting looked at Li Yu with admiration, then giggled. It's just that big brother doesn't even know how to comb his hair. He's so stupid. Li Yu is speechless. Hee. Little Tingting smiled and pulled Li Yu's sleeve. In the future, I'll help big brother comb his hair. And then I'll have to trouble Tingting. Li Yu smiled and rubbed little Tingting's head. He turned his head and looked at old man Jiang. Uncle, didn't you call us to eat? Come, let's go eat. The three of them chatted and laughed as they walked to the store in front. Old man Jiang served the dishes. Just as the three of them were about to eat, they suddenly heard a mournful scream outside the door. I found the source, and you want to kill me to silence me. Your Li family will die a horrible death. The voice outside the door startled the three of them. Murder? Little Tingting was so scared that she shrank into her grandfather's arms. Her face was pale. Don't be afraid. Big brother is here. Li Yu comforted her. Then he said to old man Jiang, Uncle, I'll go take a look. After saying that, Li Yu got up and walked to the door. He reached out and opened the door. A man covered in blood was lying in front of the door. He seemed to be on his last breath. How interesting. Li Yu looked at this scene and sneered while shaking his head. Killed by the Li family? And just happened to escape to old man Jiang's store? And just happened to be on his last breath? And just happened to reveal the secret of the source? Or, how stupid do I have to be to fall for such a trick? However, since I'm bored, I'll play with you guys. With a flick of his finger, a spirit light sprinkled on the man lying in the pool of blood. The wounds on the man's body quickly healed. After a while, the dying man recovered. Thank you, Immortal, for saving me. Thank you, Immortal, for saving me. The middle-aged man, who looked like a herb gatherer, knelt in front of Li Yu and kowtowed nonstop. Get up. Li Yu waved his hand and released a gust of wind that lifted the middle-aged man up. Li Yu looked at the middle-aged man and asked, Speak, what happened? Reporting to Immortal Master. I'm Zhang San, a herb gatherer in town. Some time ago, I found a source in a cave. Zhang San replied respectfully. At that time, this lowly one wanted to sell it to the Li family and exchange it for some money. I didn't expect that not only did the Li family not give me money, but they also wanted to kill me. I saw that the situation was not good, so I escaped. Then why did you escape here? Li Yu smiled and looked at Zhang San. His tone was very amiable. I heard that an immortal master came to the Jiang family and beat up the Li family. I thought that as long as I ran to your place, the Li family would definitely not dare to do anything. Zhang San looked at Li Yu nervously. Immortal Master, you won't blame me, right? I see. Li Yu nodded and sighed in his heart. This Zhang San was very likely innocent. He was just being used. The Li family's move was actually not very clever. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that there was a problem with one look. But this was an origin stone. How many cultivators would not be tempted? Even if they knew that there was a problem, they would still think that with their own abilities, it would not be difficult to eat the bait and spit out the hook. Those who were more conceited would even think that with their own abilities, they could suppress even the biggest conspiracy. However, Liu was different. Source ores were mainly distributed in the northern region. How could there be a large source ore in the Yin Kingdom? How could such a small thing tempt him? However, in order to continue this act, Liu naturally had to cooperate. Source ore? Where did you find it? Liu pretended to be very interested. He looked at Zhang San with shining eyes and said eagerly, "Quick, tell me." "Immortal Master, I found it in a cave on a cliff 25 kilometers from the East Mountain." Zhang San replied honestly, I understand." Liu nodded and waved at Zhang San. "Your injuries have already healed. Go back quickly." Yes. Thank you, Immortal Master." "Thank you, Immortal Master." Zhang San thanked him profusely and got up to leave. Ha! Liu turned his head and glanced in the direction of Eastern Mountain with a slight smile on his lips. I wonder what kind of surprise the Li family has prepared for me there. I'm really looking forward to it. Chapter 38. East Mountain? Are you trying to lure me there? Liu glanced in the direction of East Mountain, smiled, turned around, and walked back to the store. Even if I want to go, I have to finish my meal first. Just as he took a step, the system prompt made Liu stop. Receive the resources submitted by the host of Book of the Highest Heavens. Do you want to deposit them in the resource library? Huh? This kid has gained something? Deposit them in the resource library. Opening the resource library and seeing a few new monster corpses and some medicinal herbs, Liu smiled. I have already started a level up by killing monsters. It seems that I will be able to grow up soon. Very good. Liu nodded with satisfaction. During this period of time, the role of Zhou Yi was not obvious, so Liu did not get much benefit from Zhou Yi at all. However, Liu knew very well that this was a long-term investment. In this world, Liu could only stay for a year. Even if he plundered everywhere, the things he could get within a year were always limited. However, Zhou Yi was different. As long as he grew and moved forward, he could continuously provide various resources. Although the short-term benefits were not obvious, the prospects were very promising. He turned around and returned to the store. As soon as he entered the door, Old Man Jiang asked Liu, "Benefactor, what happened?" "It's nothing. Someone was injured, so I helped him treat it." Liu sat at the table with a smile and said to Old Man Jiang, "Uncle, don't always call me Benefactor, okay? My name is Liu. You could just call me by my name." "How can I don't?" Seeing that Old Man Jiang was still pestering him, Liu quickly interrupted, "Just call me Brother Yu. Everyone else calls me that." "Brother Yu." Little Tingting smiled and called Liu. She reached out to pick up some food and handed it to Liu. "Brother Yu, eat. Little Tingting is the best." Liu took the food that Little Tingting picked up with a bowl and praised with a smile. He reached out and patted Little Tingting's head. An imperceptible aura fell into Little Tingting's body. After a while, the three of them finished their meal. "Uncle, I need to go out for a while. Don't do any business today. Close the door and stay at home to take care of Little Tingting," Liu said to Old Man Jiang. With a slight movement of his finger, a spirit light also landed on Old Man Jiang's body. Liu stood up and walked out of the shop. He cast a glance in the direction of the East Mountain. Then, with a flash of light, he soared into the sky. Liu landed at the peak of the Eastern Mountain in just a few moments. "This is the place?" Liu turned his head and looked around. He found that this was just an ordinary mountain peak. There was nothing special about it. What kind of programs will the Li family arrange? You set up an ambush here, waiting for me to come over and kill me. Liu smiled and casually touched his waist. His fingertips flicked the soul-shaking clock on his waist. Ding! A soft ringing sound rang out. The crisp and pleasant sound was like a wind chime gently swaying. An invisible fluctuation rippled along with the sound of the bell. It was as if there was an invisible ripple spreading out in all directions. This was one of the spells contained in the soul-shaking clock. It was called Godly Stun. The godly stun sound triggered the fear hidden in the depths of one's heart, causing one's courage to shatter and soul to leave one's body. This spell targeted one's thoughts. The more complicated one's thoughts were, the more intense the fear would be. On the contrary, wild beasts that acted according to their instincts were not affected. Liu used the godly stun sound to see if there was an ambush around. There's actually no ambush. The godly stun sound swept through the surroundings. There was no movement. This surprised Liu. They didn't use such crude methods? It seems that I still underestimated the Leaf family. But no matter how many methods they have, they are useless in front of me. Liu smiled and walked a few steps on the mountain peak. Suddenly, he thought of a problem. Since there might be sorcerers here, why not look for them? After all, he had nothing to do. System, scan and see if there are sorcerers nearby. Since there might be sorcerers, it was worth it to waste some energy scanning. He might even make a profit. Discovered miniature sorcerers. Sure enough, there was a discovery. The system quickly displayed the location of the source ores in Liu's mind. There really is. Seeing the source ores displayed in his mind, Liu smiled. Although it's very little, I can at least break even. The source ores were very small. They were distributed in a radius of less than 500 meters. Moreover, they were all scattered. There was only a 10-meter area where the source ores were concentrated. Walking to the location where the source ores were concentrated, Liu activated the resource recovery system. With a wave of his hand, the rocks, soil, vegetation, and the source ores buried underground were all collected by the system into the resource repository. After a while, a 10-meter wide hole appeared on the ground. The source ores were all plundered by Liu along with the rocks and debris. Forget about the scattered ones. There's too little. It's a waste of time. With a stomp of his foot, a huge force collapsed the ground and buried the hole that had just appeared. His foot had actually created a source stone? How interesting. With a stomp of his foot, a fist-sized amber-colored crystal appeared on the collapsed ground. Is this a source, or? He bent down and picked up the source from the ground. The amber-colored crystal flickered with a brilliant radiance. A pure and majestic energy surged within the crystal, as expected of the crystallization of life essence. It's really extraordinary. Liu held the source ore in his hand. Looking at the crystal that was more brilliant and beautiful than any other gem, he praised it in his heart. Thief, how dare you? Thief, quickly put down the source ore. Damn thing, how dare you steal the source ore? Beat him to death. A series of angry shouts came from behind. Then, streaks of spiritual light whizzed through the air. All kinds of weapons came crashing down on Liu. So unreasonable and domineering? You don't even let me say a word and just rush up to kill me? Liu turned around and saw a few men flying in the air. The weapons in their hands were flashing with spiritual light as they slashed down at him. Liu's brows furrowed as he felt a little annoyed. These people were the Li family's backup. They were so domineering and didn't even give him a chance to speak. They attacked as soon as they came up. They were really decisive in killing. But what was the use of that? You're all seeking death. Liu snorted coldly and flicked the soul buster bell at his waist. Dong! This time it was no longer the soft sound of wind chimes. Instead, it was a huge bell. The deep and melodious sound of the bell rushed into the sky. The sound spread in all directions and shook the 9 heavens. A violent shockwave swept out. The flowers and plants were crushed, the trees were crushed, and the mountain rocks were crushed. Anything that stood in the way of this sound wave was shattered into pieces. Of course, that included the few people who had just appeared. How dare you be so unreasonable and domineering? You really don't know what's good for you. Liu snorted coldly. With a flick of his sleeve, a strong wind rolled up and swept away the dust in front of him. Chapter 39. Whoosh! Whoosh! Streaks of colorful escape light whistled through the air as a group of cultivators rushed toward East Mountain. Master, look, why are Senior Brother and the others fighting? In the escape light, A young girl suddenly pointed at the spiritual light, whistling through the air above East Mountain, and asked the old man beside her in surprise. Of course they're fighting. The old man smiled indifferently. An unorthodox cultivator who came out of nowhere dares to compete with our mist grotto heaven for resources. Isn't he courting death? At this point, the old man turned to look at the young girl beside him. Linjia, you have to remember, in the world of cultivators, strength is everything. The one with the bigger fist was the absolute truth. Therefore, you have to fight when you have to. There's no reason to talk about it. Yes. Lin Jia bowed and accepted the lesson. Dong. At this moment, a melodious bell suddenly sounded on East Mountain. As the bell rang, heaven and earth shook. Invisible ripples swept out, and the cultivators who attacked earlier were instantly shattered by the sound waves. Ah, damn it. Thief, how dare you? How dare you fight? How dare you kill the people of our mist grotto heaven? Thief, I'm going to grind your bones to dust. The cultivators in the escape light were furious when they saw their disciples die in front of them. The escape light under their feet sped up even more, and weapons flashed with spiritual light appeared in their hands. The cultivators rushed toward East Mountain with murderous intent. Did you see that? Strength is the capital for a cultivator to travel the world, but the sect is the foundation of a cultivator. Even at this time, the old man didn't forget to teach Lin Jia. Just now, that cultivator killed 5 people from our mist grotto heaven with one strike. It can be said that his strength is extraordinary. However, he's alone. How can he compete with the power of our sect? In the end, he'll still die. Lin Jia, you have to remember that the sect is the foundation of a cultivator. With the sect as your backing, you'll be able to go further. Yes. Lin Jia bowed again and accepted the lesson. In a moment, the group of cultivators rushed to East Mountain. Seeing the white-robed figure standing at the peak of the mountain, the cultivators did not say a word. They brandished their weapons and charged over. Thief, you stole my misty grotto heaven source, and dare to kill my people. How dare you? Die! A dark-faced old man in the lead roared angrily, waving his hand and smashing out a large seal with mist swirling around it. Spiritual light erupted from the seal as it transformed into the shape of a massive mountain, crashing down from the sky. At the same time, the other cultivators also brandished their weapons. For a moment, the entire peak of Eastern Mountain was filled with raging winds and clouds as spiritual light soared to the heavens. Weapons flickering with spiritual light tore through the sky and slashed down. Did you see that? This is the power of the sect. The old man nodded with a smile. In front of a powerful sect, the strength of an individual is insignificant. As the old man spoke, he turned to look at Lin Jia. To his surprise, what he saw on Lin Jia's face was not admiration for the sect's strength, nor was it pride for the sect. Instead, it was fear. It was as if she had caused a great disaster. Lin Jia's face was pale as she pointed at the peak of East Mountain. Her body was trembling, and her mouth was trembling as if she wanted to say something, but she could not say anything. What's going on? The old man was stunned and asked Lin Jia in surprise. Ah! Lin Jia suddenly screamed. It's him! It's him! It's him! Don't fight! Don't fight! It's over, I'm dead! I'm dead! Lin Jia. Seeing Lin Jia scared out of her wits, the old man could not help but feel a little angry. He shouted at Lin Jia. Originally, the old man thought highly of Lin Jia, but after seeing Lin Jia's performance, the old man was greatly disappointed. There was no danger at all in such a small battle. How could she be so scared? She was really unworthy. Among the few immortal seedlings brought back from the edge of the forbidden area of remote antiquity, this girl named Lin Jia was especially outstanding. As an elder of the mist grotto heaven, the old man had personally taken her in as a disciple. He taught her carefully all the way because he wanted her to be outstanding and bring glory to the sect. He did not expect her to be so timid. It was really disappointing. Lin Jia, what's wrong with you? The old man was furious and scolded Lin Jia with a straight face. Ah, master, Lin Jia trembled and seemed to have woken up. She quickly grabbed the old man's sleeve and shouted in panic, "Master, we're not dead yet? That's great. That's great. Master, let's run. Let's run. Bastard." The old man was trembling with anger and shouted at Lin Jia, "You're scared out of your wits by such a small battle? You've really disappointed me." "Battle? Where's the battle? Master, turn around and look." Lin Jia trembled and pointed at the peak of East Mountain. "Master, it's him. It's him. Turn around and look." The old man suddenly felt that something was wrong and hurriedly turned around to look in the direction of East Mountain's peak. Seeing the scene in front of him, the old man trembled and could not help but scream. He already understood what Lin Jia meant by "where's the battle?" There was indeed no battle. The white-robed figure on the peak did not move at all. The seal that was as big as a mountain came crashing down. Poof! The seal turned into ashes and disappeared into thin air. The gleaming sword slashed down from above, but also turned into a puff of green smoke and disappeared without a trace. The cultivators of the Mist Grotto Heaven used all their strength and kept attacking the figure on the peak. All kinds of weapons, all kinds of secret treasures, and all kinds of spells rained down. However, before they could land on the white-robed figure, they were shattered by an invisible wave and turned into dust. How is this a battle? It was not even tickling the other party. What kind of cultivation is this? Who the hell is this person? The old man trembled and suddenly turned to look at Lin Jia. "You know that person? Who is he? Who the hell is that person?" "It's him. Master, have you forgotten? That's the Grand Supreme." "Oh no, that's the Heavenly Lord of Tao and Virtue," Lin Jia said to the old man with a trembling voice. "Heavenly Lord?" The old man's face turned pale, and he hurriedly looked at the white-robed figure on the peak. With one look, the old man could not help but wail, "It's really the Heavenly Lord. Spare me. Heavenly Lord, spare me. Don't fight anymore. Quickly stop." The old man screamed in horror, but it was too late. Dong! A melodious sound of a bell rang out. A wave that shattered everything swept across the field. Poof! 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 As the sound wave swept out, all the cultivators who had attacked Liu trembled and were instantly reduced to a pile of fine powder, which fluttered in the wind and scattered to the ground. "Heavenly Lord, spare me." Only the old man's mournful cries echoed in the air. Chapter 40. So it's you. Liu flew into the air and frowned at the wailing old man and Lin Jia, who was standing there in a daze. Celestial Venerable, Lin Jia was so scared that he shrank back and stammered when he saw Liu coming over. "You leave family's back up? I see." Liu already understood the whole story. This was definitely the Leaf family's doing. They used the source, or to lure the Mist Grotto Heaven to deal with Liu. The people of the Mist Grotto Heaven were unknowingly used by the Leaf family. A mere mortal had fooled a group of cultivators. The head of the Leaf family was not simple at all. Liu sneered. No matter how difficult it was, only death awaited those who provoked him. "You've been fooled by the Leaf family." Liu glanced at the old man and Lin Jia and shook his head. "The Leaf family only wanted to use you to deal with me. Just because of such a small benefit, a sect was ordered around by someone else. You guys are really stupid." Liu sighed and no longer paid any attention to the two of them. He turned around and flew towards the small town in a streak of light. "Yes, really stupid." The old man had a bitter expression. "This lesson is already deep enough. Fortunately, the Celestial Venerable didn't destroy the Mist Grotto Heaven in a fit of anger." "How fortunate." The Leaf family. The old man looked in the direction of the town and clenched his fists. "You dare to use us as cannon fodder? I'll annihilate your entire family. Let's go." Together with Lin Jia, the old man flew toward the town in a beam of light. At this time, Liu had already returned to the town. This is... Seeing the collapsed door of the store and the messy tables and chairs, Liu's eyebrows twitched. Anger surged in his heart. The Li family did this? They kidnapped Old Man Jiang and Little Ting Ting? They're really courting death. Liu turned to look in the direction of the Li family's courtyard. His eyes were cold. They're really unscrupulous. What good move. Unfortunately, this method is useless against me. In a flash, Liu's figure landed in front of the gate of the Li family. Boom! Liu waved his sleeves, and a huge gust of wind blew, directly sending the vermilion gate of the Li family's courtyard flying. Who? How dare you? You're courting death. Furious roars and shouts could be heard coming from the courtyard of Li family. A group of muscular men with weapons in their hands rushed out fiercely. Brat, you're courting death, scram. Without waiting for these guards to finish their words, Liu roared and waved his sleeves. A gust of wind rushed up and directly sent these people flying. Who dares to cause trouble in my Li family? A middle-aged man with a yellow face and a group of guards rushed over angrily. When he saw Liu's appearance, the yellow-faced middle-aged man let out a strange cry, turned around, and ran away. He left a group of guards standing there, looking at each other in dismay. With another wave of his hand, Liu sent the guards blocking the way flying and continued to move forward. At this moment, the people of the Li family rushed out. Patriarchally brought along 2 young men in their 20s. Behind them was a large group of guards with weapons in their hands. They surrounded Liu. It's you? Patriarchally saw Liu and was shocked. You're not dead yet? Didn't you go to East Mountain? You're lucky. However, you still dare to come here to court death? Patriarch Li waved his hand at the 2 young men beside him. 3rd brother, 5th brother, kill him. Yes. The 2 young cultivators waved their hands and scattered a silver light. 2 silver short knives whistled and slashed at Liu's head. Scram! Liu glared at the 2 young cultivators and roared. He extracted a trace of the power of the heart of the demon god from the system and included it in this roar. Using the tyrannical power of the great emperor's peerless power here was like using a dragon's slaying knife to kill a chicken. With a loud roar, the 2 silver knives slashing at him turned into dust. Then, the 2 young cultivators trembled and turned into a bloody mist in the sky. Not even their bones were left. You. Patriarchally was so shocked that his face turned pale. Ghost. When the surrounding guards saw this scene, they were scared out of their wits. They threw away the weapons in their hands and fled in all directions while screaming. Where are Uncle Jiang and Little Tingting? Hand them over, and I'll let you have a quick death. Liu looked at Patriarch Li expressionlessly. His calm tone revealed a bone-chilling coldness. Old man Jiang? Little Tingting? Patriarch Li's eyes lit up, and he suddenly had confidence in his heart. You want the Jiang family's grandfather and granddaughter? Kid, the Jiang family's grandfather and granddaughter are in my hands. If you don't want them to die, then what gave you confidence? What made you think you can threaten me with this? Liu sneered disdainfully and flicked his finger. Pah! With a loud explosion, Patriarch Li's whole body exploded into a bloody mist. You really don't know what you're talking about. Liu snorted and walked into the courtyard. System, indicate the location of the extreme in-body. The system immediately showed the location of Little Tingting in Liu's mind. Over there? According to the direction indicated by the system, Liu walked quickly and soon arrived at the place where Little Tingting and Old Man Jiang were detained. It was a very ordinary room. Bang! Liu kicked the door open. Who are you? A young man in his 20s with a dagger in his hand looked warily at Liu, who had just entered the room. Big brother, you're here. Little Tingting was tied to a pillar. Seeing Liu come in, she cried out in surprise. Benefactor, be careful. He's a cultivator. Seeing Liu come in, Old Man Jiang was happy, but immediately worried about Liu. Boy, it's you. If you dare to take another step forward, I'll kill them. The young man put the short knife in his hand on Little Tingting's neck and shouted at Liu with a fierce face. Is that all you've got? Liu snorted. Do you think I didn't think of that? Do you think I didn't think that you might use them to threaten me? Pah! Liu snapped his fingers. The brilliant golden light instantly lit up. Little Tingting and Old Man Jiang were enveloped in a dazzling golden light, which condensed into a set of golden armor on their bodies. The young man's face changed. The short knife in his hand fiercely chopped at little Ting-Ting's body, but was blocked by the golden light and couldn't hurt her at all. Clang! Liu brushed his hand on his waist, and the soul buster bell rang crisply and melodiously. The young man's face froze, and he fell to the ground with a plop. The ringing of the soul buster bell had directly dispersed his soul. The Li family has been destroyed. You're safe. Liu waved his hand to untie the ropes on the two people and walked out of the door with Old Man Jiang and little Ting-Ting. Whoosh! A streak of light landed on the ground, and Lin Jia and the old man of Mist Grotto appeared. Did you do it yourself? The old man looked at the chaotic situation of the Li family and looked at Liu in surprise, thinking, how could the Li family do this? They even had to trouble a celestial venerable to do it himself. Yes. Liu nodded, pointed at Old Man Jiang and little Ting-Ting, and said to the old man, their surname is Jiang. From now on, you'll take care of them, until their family comes to find you. Yes. The old man bowed and accepted the order, but his heart was in turmoil. Surname Jiang? In this world, the only family with the surname Jiang that the celestial venerable specially pointed out must be the world-famous Jiang family. The old man suddenly felt lucky. If these two people were really from the Jiang family, and Miss Grotto was involved in this matter, the destruction of their family would be in front of them. Uncle Little Ting-Ting, with the people of Mist Grotto looking after you, you're safe. I'm leaving, Liu said to Old Man Jiang and little Ting-Ting with a smile. Leaving? Little Ting-Ting's eyes were filled with tears. Big brother, are you leaving? Then, who's going to comb your hair? Liu choked for a moment, then shook his head with a smile. Little Ting-Ting was really cute, really. Well, he couldn't think about it anymore. I'm leaving. Liu waved his hand, and the streak of light soared into the sky, disappearing into the horizon. Big brother, why are you leaving? I still have to comb your hair for you. Little Ting-Ting pursed her lips, and tears fell from her eyes. Lin Jia and the old man of Mist Grotto were speechless for a long time. Comb the celestial venerable's hair? I want to do such a good thing too. Chapter 41. The escape light flew across the sky. Liu looked back at the town behind him and sighed secretly. This time, other than killing people, he didn't seem to have earned anything. He only collected some source stones from the source mine. The value was far less than the elixir of immortality used to exchange for the earth fate fruit. It was really a loss. But little Ting-Ting was really cute. Cough, cough. Liu coughed a few times and quickly extinguished a thought that had just appeared in his heart. Lolas have 3 good things. Bah, how old is little Ting-Ting? I definitely helped her because I pitied her. That's definitely the case. I've never thought about raising a Lolas. Absolutely not. What's more, I can only stay in this world for a year. How can I raise her in a year? Well, this is the key. While Liu was depressed, the escape light landed in front of the hall under the volcano. Looking up at the surroundings, Liu let out a long sigh. Well, I'll just train Zhou Yi honestly. Walking into the hall, Liu placed a futon on the ground and sat down cross-legged. In addition to selling the system and training Zhou Yi, Liu originally planned to take advantage of this year to plunder more resources. However, he couldn't go to places that were too far away. It wasn't worthwhile to spend time on the road. Not too far away, there were good things. They were all dangerous places like life, forbidden zones. Although he had the system in hand, if he went to such places, he would die without knowing why if he wasn't careful. Even the system couldn't guarantee his safety. Chingy's tomb was packed and taken away. No matter what, this trip was a big gain. It was better not to be greedy. The son of a rich family didn't need to sit under the awning. With the system in hand, it was only a matter of time before he became rich. It was better not to take too many risks. Forget it. Safety first. Liu shook his head with a wry smile. I'd better be a mastermind behind the scenes. Let Zhou Yi do things like charging and breaking through the enemy lines. Otherwise, why would I give him the system? Is it really a selfless contribution? System, connect to the Book of Taishan. See what Zhou Yi is doing. Zhou Yi's figure instantly appeared in his mind. In the dense jungle, Zhou Yi was covered with mud, lying motionless in a pile of dead branches and leaves. Not far ahead, a black bear-like monster stood like a small mountain. It stretched its neck and kept sniffing as if it was looking for Zhou Yi. Huh, Zhou Yi, this kid is really going all out. Seeing Zhou Yi's embarrassing appearance covered with mud, Liu couldn't help but laugh. The bear monster sniffed for a while and did not find Zhou Yi, so it lowered its head and looked at the ground in front of it. There was a huge beehive on the ground. Golden honey seeped out from the cracks of the beehive, and an alluring sweet fragrance filled the air. The enchanting fragrance and intoxicating sweetness made the bear monster salivate. It was too sweet, too mesmerizing. After struggling for a while, the bear monster couldn't take it anymore. It roared and swallowed the entire beehive. The golden honey flowed from the corner of its mouth, and the intoxicating fragrance made the bear moan in satisfaction, as if it was enjoying it very much. That's right, not bad. Seeing this scene, Liu nodded in admiration. This kid, Zhou Yi, is quite smart. This bear monster is finished. Sure enough, as soon as Liu's voice fell, the huge bear monster suddenly hugged its stomach and howled miserably, rolling on the ground in pain. Zhou Yi was still lying in the pile of fallen leaves without moving. Even when the bear monster struggled and rolled, the flying gravel and soil hit its body. Zhou Yi endured it and remained motionless. Boom! The bear monster finally couldn't hold on any longer, and it staggered and fell to the ground. Its huge body hit the ground, making a loud noise. Aha! Zhou Yi got up from the ground, looked at the huge bear monster that had fallen to the ground in front of him, and laughed out loud. A beast is a beast. No matter how strong it is, isn't it still defeated by a little poison? Spirit of the Heavenly Book, retrieve the body of the bear monster. Understood. An invisible wave flashed, and the huge bear monster's body disappeared. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, how many resources do I have now? After collecting the bear monster, Zhou Yi asked the Spirit of the Heavenly Book, Your Majesty, today you have harvested a total of 8 bitter sea stage demon beast corpses, 1 celestial bridge stage bear monster corpse, and 25 different kinds of elixirs. Good, good. With these things, my strength can be greatly increased. Zhou Yi smiled happily, turned and looked in the direction of the volcanic crater. That's it for today. Let's go back and digest these gains first. Seeing my growth, the founder must be very pleased. Haha, of course the founder is pleased. When Liu saw this scene, he smiled and nodded. At this speed, Zhou Yi will soon grow up. Soon, he will be able to charge in front of me. There are many things that I don't need to do personally. Soon after, Zhou Yi returned to the main hall where he lived. Greetings to the founder. Walking into the main hall, Zhou Yi saw Liu sitting cross-legged in the main hall and hurriedly came over to salute. No need for formalities. Liu nodded to Zhou Yi. How is today's harvest? Replying to the founder, this disciple has gained a lot. A total of 8 ferocious beasts were hunted. 1 demonic beast was hunted, and 25 spiritual herbs were collected. That's not what I'm asking. Before Zhou Yi could finish his words, he was interrupted by Liu. For cultivators, resources are indeed very important. But Liu looked at Zhou Yi and shook his head slightly. But how can a person who is determined to become a great emperor put his eyes on this? Please enlighten me, founder. Zhou Yi's face was solemn, and he bowed down. There are countless dangers on the path of cultivation. The experience of dealing with danger and combat experience are all incomparably precious. The trouble of a person was that he liked to be a teacher. Liu seemed to be really into the role and began to preach habitually. In Zhou Yi's eyes, Liu was a top expert, so he naturally believed in Liu's words. He never thought about whether he would be led into a pit. In fact, Liu's words were not a pit. After all, when it came to talking about principles, anyone could talk nonsense that seemed to make a lot of sense. In addition to these experiences, the greater gain is the tempering of your temperament. After all, you are of mortal birth, and have never experienced fighting. Courage, fighting spirit, and determination to win, these are all your gains. The road to becoming a great emperor is filled with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Without courage and fighting spirit, how can you stand out? How can you be invincible in the world? Yes. Thank you for your teachings, founder. Hearing Li Yu's words, Zhou Yi was very touched. He felt that he was indeed too short-sighted. Or resources. With enough strength, what resources couldn't he snatch? Combat experience and tempering one's temperament were the most important. How can I waste such a peerless opportunity to be valued and taught by the founder? I must make some achievements in order to repay the founder's kindness in teaching me. Zhou Yi clenched his fists tightly, and a strong fighting spirit rose in his heart. Chapter 42. Night fell. Li Yu found a room in the hall and exchanged for a simple bed from the system. After a little decoration, it became a bedroom. It's so comfortable with the system in hand. Lying on the bed with a pillow propped up high, Li Yu hummed a little tune in satisfaction. The host of the Book of the Highest Heavenly Book asks if there is any combat experience and adventure experience to exchange. The system's prompt interrupted Li Yu's self-satisfaction. Zhou, he actually wants to exchange for this? Li Yu turned over and sat up, touching his head. System, did the Book of the Highest Heavenly Book not set up such an exchange? No. This, Li Yu smiled awkwardly. I actually forgot to set up such an exchange? All right. Extracting the survival experience and combat experience of the beasts and monsters in the resource warehouse and opening it to Zhou Yi for exchange. Please set the exchange price. Exchange price. This kid doesn't train properly and wants to take advantage of the situation. According to the cultivation level, the price is based on the exchange of the same weapon. Give me another look. Setup complete. The new function of the Book of the Highest Heavenly Book has been activated. Li Yu nodded. System, save Zhou Yi's exchange items for me later and let me have a look. I'll take a nap first. Li Yu turned over, yawned, covered himself with the quilt, and fell asleep. In another room, Zhou Yi asked the spirit of the Heavenly Book if he could exchange for adventure experience and combat experience. Unexpectedly, after asking, the spirit of the Heavenly Book was stunned and stuck there motionless. What's going on? Could it be that such a high and mighty thing like the system can also crash? Are you kidding me? Zhou Yi was dumbfounded when he saw this. The patch has been loaded. The system update has been completed. Your servant, the spirit of the Heavenly Book, greets your majesty. The spirit of the Heavenly Book regained its agility and bowed to Zhou Yi. Your majesty, the Book of the Highest Heavenly Book has been updated. The exchange function for adventure experience and combat experience has been opened. Patch, update, and upgrade? Why does this sound so familiar? Zhou Yi shook his head and focused on the new function of the experience exchange. Spirit of the Heavenly Book introduced the new function of the experience exchange. Yes, the spirit of the Heavenly Book instantly pulled out a light screen, listing a series of experience exchange items. Hand-to-hand combat experience, experience in operating artifacts, ambush, dodge, and parry, jungle survival experience. There are so many projects. Although most of them are only at the Sea of Reincarnation realm, it is more than enough for me. The system upgrade this time is really considerate. Zhou Yi looked at this series of experience exchanges and was very happy. I'm mainly adventuring in the jungle now, so survival experience in the jungle is essential. Hiding and evading could increase the chances of survival and hunting success, which was also very suitable. In terms of combat experience, both bare hands and magical artifacts were essential. I want to exchange for all of them. However, when he saw the series of energy numbers behind the experience exchange, Zhou Yi shuddered. So expensive? That's twice the price of weapons and equipment? Your Majesty, weapons and equipment can only be used for a short period of time, but the EXP can be used for a lifetime. The final authority of the Most High Heavenly Book belonged to Li Yu, and the spirit of the Heavenly Book could only speak up for Li Yu. That's true. Zhou Yi nodded. Spirit of the heavenly book, recycle all my resources and exchange them for energy points. Energy points exchange completed. Your Majesty, you have 850 energy points. 850 points? So little. Zhou Yi looked at the projects in the experience exchange. The cheapest jungle survival experience cost 300 points. The most expensive artifact control actually cost 1,000 points. Jungle survival and ambush, dodge, and parry, these two are essential. Let's exchange for these two first. The two projects added up to exactly 800 points. After the exchange, there were only 50 points left. I'll keep these 50 points for an emergency. Exchange begins. As the voice of the spirit of the heavenly book sounded, countless inexplicable information flowed into Zhou Yi's mind. All kinds of experiences of survival in the jungle, where there was water, where there was food, where there were dangerous enemies, where there was a safe cave, which plants were poisonous, which things were not to be trifled with. All kinds of information quickly integrated into Zhou Yi's mind. The crazy influx of experience stirred Zhou Yi's mind into a mess, and he was dizzy. After the jungle survival experience was input, the experience of ambush, dodge, and parry poured in again. It hurts. Zhou Yi sat on the ground with his head in his hands, gasping for breath. It was not easy to hold on until all the information was input. Phew, what a pain. Zhou Yi wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, turned over, and got up from the ground. He looked around, and a thought instantly appeared in his mind. The environment is empty, and it's easy to be discovered by the enemy. It's also easy to be ambushed. There's no place to hide, and there's no environment to hide one's breath. It's not suitable for survival. Huh? It worked just like that? Zhou Yi chuckled, feeling very happy. Although it's a bit expensive, the experience is very good. It's completely become instinct. With my current level, even jungle survival experts can't compare. He walked to the window, looked up at the jungle in the distance, and heard the faint roar of a beast coming from inside. Zhou Yi instantly distinguished what kind of beast the sound was, and he could even hear the other party's actions from the sound. The night wolf hunted a porcupine. There were also a few night owls secretly fighting to bite a few pieces of meat. The familiarity with the jungle and the behavior of the beasts made Zhou Yi overjoyed. With this jungle experience, it will be easier to hunt in the future. That's great. That's great. If Liu knew Zhou Yi's psychology at the moment, he would definitely laugh until he couldn't breathe. These experiences were extracted from the consciousness of the beasts and demons. He must be very familiar with the jungle and understand it very well. At this time, Zhou Yi was rejoicing, and Liu was sleeping soundly. Neither of them found the abnormality hidden in these experiences. It was a huge pit that could make people vomit blood. The night passed. Early in the morning, Zhou Yi collected a bunch of sweet and delicious wild fruits from the mountain forest with the help of his skillful jungle experience and sent them to Liu. Ancestral Master, this disciple has picked some wild fruits. Please enjoy them. Liu rubbed his still hazy eyes and reached out to take the wild fruits handed over by Zhou Yi. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Eating fruits early in the morning was not good for the stomach. Well, in the eyes of Zhou Yi, a master like Liu is naturally above the common populace. You are considerate. Liu nodded to Zhou Yi with appreciation. You are so excited today and eager to try. It seems that the harvest is not small. It's all because of the ancestral master's guidance. This disciple has gained a little. Zhou Yi replied with a smile. Since you have gained something, then go and try it. Yes. Zhou Yi accepted the order, turned around, walked out of the hall, and rushed towards the jungle. With the jungle experience, the experience of hiding, dodging, and parrying, Zhou Yi was full of confidence. But he never thought that there was a huge pit hidden in all the experience he exchanged. As for whether he would be killed, and it shouldn't be, right? Chapter 43. Zhou Yi got into the jungle with ease. With the jungle survival experience, after Zhou Yi entered the jungle, he was like a fish in water relaxed and at ease. With a tap of his foot, he reached out and grabbed a rattan, swung it in the air, and landed on the branch of another big tree far away. Huh, it's simply like Mount Tai. Zhou Yi's heart was extremely carefree. He kicked hard with his feet, and his figure leaped. He raised his hand and pulled on a branch in front of him. The huge impact bent the branch. However, the extremely elastic branch bounced back and threw Zhou Yi far away. Hey! With a strange cry, Zhou Yi somersaulted a few times and landed on another big tree in the distance. The jungle survival experience is really too strong. Entering the forest is just like going home. It's so cool. Zhou Yi laughed heartily and leaped out again. After a while, Zhou Yi stopped at the foot of a cliff. According to the jungle experience, there should be red pillar fruits growing in this place. After looking up at the bottom of the cliff for a while, Zhou Yi found a red pillar fruit in the shade behind a boulder. The red spiritual fruit was shaped like a small pillar. This is it. He bent down and reached out to pick the red pillar fruit. A thought suddenly flashed in his mind, making Zhou Yi's whole body tremble. His face was a little sluggish. Eating the red pillar fruit will make it molt faster? What the hell is this? I'm not a snake. Why molt? Where did this idea come from? Zhou Yi looked at the red pillar fruit in his hand, blinked his eyes, and was at a loss. How could I have such an idea? How did I know that the red pillar fruit also has the effect of molting? How did I? Damn it. Could it be? Zhou Yi's face changed, and he quickly asked the spirit of the heavenly book. Spirit of the heavenly book, where did the jungle survival experience that I exchanged come from? Is this a sequela? Is there such a thing as a sequela in the system exchange? The spirit of the heavenly book couldn't answer this question at all, so he could only turn the question to Liu. However, he seemed to have crashed and was stuck. Hey, why aren't you talking? Did it crash again? Zhou Yi suddenly felt that this book of the highest heavenly book system seemed to be a bit unreliable. Liu was holding a bowl of soy milk and biting into a deep-fried dough stick when he suddenly heard the question from the spirit of the heavenly book through the system connection. Liu was stunned for a moment. System, why are there still remnants of consciousness in the experiences you extracted from the beasts and demons? Didn't you remove all of them? The user did not specify any specific requirements. The system defaults that all beneficial experiences are within the extraction range. F***CK. Do you have to be so conned? Lee was dumbfounded. According to this explanation, there was no difference between humans and beasts when it came to the so-called jungle survival experience and the experience of hiding and evading. What kind of experience was this? This was a huge trap. According to his experience, when encountering a berserk beast, should he fly into the sky? I don't F***'s king have wings. Using a loud roar to scare off the opponent? There was even something about peeing to mark out the hunting area. This kind of experience, this was already a scam that couldn't be scammed anymore. Don't play Zhou Yi to death. Quickly think of a way to remedy it. All right, as a novice system supplier, Liu expressed that he lacked experience. If something went wrong and there was a problem with the product quality, it would directly affect the reputation. Didn't you see that the grenades and mobile phones were all recycled? Products with quality problems must be rectified. Liu felt that he should be a businessman with a conscience, a moral businessman, and roar before Liu could adjust the product and improve the quality. Zhou Yi was already in trouble. A giant python with the thickness of a bucket and a length of more than 10 feet rushed over with a roar. The huge bright red coxcomb on its head was like a burning flame. Coxcomb fire python? This thing can spit venom, and the coxcomb on its head can even release flames. When Zhou Yi saw the coxcomb fire python rushing over, his heart tightened, but countless countermeasures emerged in his mind. Fly up and attack in the air, tear the coxcomb on its head with its claws, pounce on it directly and bite it 7 inches, grab its tail and smash it to the ground to death. What are these? All kinds of thoughts emerged in his mind, diluting Zhou Yi's own countermeasures. After the coxcomb fire python's huge fangs bit down, Zhou Yi screamed and rolled to avoid the attack. Damn it, Zhou was shocked, angry, and anxious. He quickly took out the short sword that Liu gave him and slashed at the coxcomb fire python. A silver light whizzed through the air. Ding! The spirit weapon of the Sea of Reincarnation realm slashed on the giant python's neck. Sparks splashed on the green scales, but it didn't hurt the coxcomb fire python at all. It can't even cut open the scales. Just how strong is this thing? Countless thoughts emerged in his mind. Some thoughts indicated that the coxcomb fire python was just a dish. It tasted good to catch it and eat it. Some thoughts indicated that this thing couldn't be provoked. It was better to escape quickly. Damn it! What the hell is this? Zhou couldn't help but curse. He turned and ran. Through the system connection, Liu saw everything clearly and heard Zhou Yi's cursing clearly. Even if Liu's face was as thick as a wall, he was a little embarrassed. Zhou Yi, it's not that I cheated you. The key is that the system cheated me too. Liu shook his head and muttered, "There's a problem with the product this time. I'll upgrade it for free. And I'll give you a discount next time." Zhou Yi, who was running for his life, didn't know that this matter was related to Liu. If he knew the weight of Liu, the founder, he was afraid, system, extract the experience again. From a human's point of view, with Zhou Yi as the benchmark, reconstitute various experience skills. The system instantly completed the refining and construction work. Seeing the experience skills that had been refined again in the system, Liu shook his head slightly. I was negligent this time. I didn't consider it perfectly. Zhou Yi, I'll help you solve the problem in front of you. System, connect to the Book of Taishang and update the exchange of various experience skills. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, let Zhou Yi exchange for a one-time, 6-syllable mantra skill. System, draw out a bit of the Soul Buster Clock's God, destroying sound. Release it through this skill and destroy that snake. Liu's series of orders were instantly executed. Your Majesty, you can use the remaining energy points to exchange for a one-time skill, the bomb mantra of the 6-syllable mantra. It can kill this snake. And, Spirit of the Heavenly Book, you turn it on again? Zhou Yi crawled and rolled to avoid a line of fire that rushed out from the top of the coxcomb fire python's head. Even his clothes were burned. Suddenly, he heard the voice of the Spirit of the Heavenly Book and was stunned for a moment. Exchange! Exchange! Although he was cheated by the Spirit of the Heavenly Book, it was obviously not the time to look for trouble. Zhou Yi knew what was important and quickly asked the Spirit of the Heavenly Book to start the exchange. Exchange begins. A huge force rushed into Zhou Yi's body, causing him to involuntarily open his mouth and roar. Bah! The huge sound reverberated in all directions. An invisible wave swept over, and the ferocious coxcomb fire python's body shook and fell to the ground. Phew! It's finally dead. Zhou Yi patted his chest and felt his heart beating wildly in his chest. He took a deep breath. Calm down. Calm down. I'm someone who wants to become a great emperor. What's this little thrill? Chapter 44. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, retrieve the coxcomb fire python. Zhou Yi walked to the side of the fire python's corpse and instructed the book of the highest heavenly book. With a wave of his hand, the huge fire python's corpse suddenly disappeared. Phew! After letting out a long breath, Zhou Yi tore off his clothes that were burned into a mess and threw them heavily to the ground. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, shouldn't you explain? The narrow escape just now made Zhou Yi very angry. He was almost cheated to death. F***CK. What the hell is this exchange? Your Majesty, please calm down. The Spirit of the Heavenly Book smiled bitterly and quickly apologized to Zhou Yi. Your Majesty, this matter is a long story. To make it short, without figuring out what the problem was, Zhou Yi no longer dared to use this book of the highest heavenly book. Your Majesty, the prototype of the book of the highest heavenly book was obtained by the Tao ancestor from the outer world. This item originally belonged to a great demon. After the Tao ancestor killed this demon, he brought the prototype of the heavenly book back to this world. The spirit of the heavenly book bowed to Zhou Yi and began to explain to him. The Tao ancestor re-refined the prototype of the heavenly book into the book of the highest heavenly book. However, because the original host of the heavenly book was the demon race, even though the heavenly book is now under your control, the system still did not delete the race data of the original host. Speaking of this, the spirit of the heavenly book smiled bitterly. This caused the system to add the experience and skills that should belong to the demon race to you when you exchanged them. So, is that so? Zhou Yi was dumbfounded. This explanation made sense. Even if it had been re-refined by the Tao ancestor, no matter how profound the Tao ancestor's cultivation was, he probably didn't know much about the system. He didn't know about any race data at all. So, I can only consider myself unlucky? Zhou Yi was so depressed that he couldn't speak for a long time. Then has this problem been solved now? There won't be such a blunder in the future, right? Your Majesty, don't worry. There was a major error in the system just now. It has been corrected and updated the host data. There won't be any problems. The spirit of the heavenly book made a guarantee to Zhou Yi and then gave compensation. Your Majesty, due to the system error, it has caused you inconvenience. The system has corrected the data and adjusted all the exchanged experience and skills for free. Do you agree to the correction? All right. Zhou Yi shook his head helplessly. Let's fix it. As soon as he finished speaking, a cool aura penetrated into Zhou Yi's mind, revising the 2 experience skills that Zhou Yi had exchanged. All the experience skills were completely adjusted based on Zhou Yi. Correction complete. After a while, Zhou Yi shook his head and opened his eyes, smelling the fragrance of the soil, looking at the light and shadow spilling through the gaps between the branches and leaves, and listening to the whistling wind in his ears. Zhou Yi felt that he had a new feeling about the jungle. All the information he sensed gave him an instinctive sense of familiarity. There was no awkwardness at all. It was as if he had personally experienced everything in the forest before. All right. This time, nothing went wrong. Zhou Yi breathed a sigh of relief and put down his uneasy heart. Of course, nothing will go wrong. Zhou Yi, I really didn't cheat you this time. Seeing that the Book of Changes had been corrected, Liu breathed a sigh of relief. The problematic products were finally fixed, and the noble integrity of a conscientious businessman was finally preserved. Well, if Zhou Yi knew about it, he would definitely spit on his face. Selling this kind of fraudulent product is still called a conscientious businessman? And integrity? Your integrity is all on the ground. Fortunately, none of this happened. Let's continue hunting and collecting elixirs. Feeling the adjusted experience skills, Zhou Yi did not find any problems, and the depression in his heart faded a lot. The skillful jungle experience and hiding experience made Zhou Yi like a fish in water in the jungle. Soon, Zhou Yi devoted himself to the great cause of fighting monsters and leveling up. Well, I finally fooled him. Liu's old face was red, and he shook his head gently. System, similar problems in the future will be based on the human race. After all, most of the hosts in the future will be humans. Command accepted. The system's rigid voice was as flat as ever. Liu was already used to it. Zhou Yi has already started to fight monsters to level up, and he will soon grow up. My mission is, Thinking of this, Liu suddenly exclaimed in surprise. System, my mission is to create and sell a system. The system has already given it to Zhou Yi, and he also paid with the Bodhi tree as the price. Logically speaking, this mission has been completed, right? The initial mission has been completed. Do you want to submit it? F***CK. I completed the mission, but there isn't even a prompt. I have to take the initiative to submit it to complete the mission. Is there a need to be so deceptive? Liu's eyes widened, and he choked. Isn't the intelligence of this system too bad? There's a problem with the experience extraction, and the mission is completed without taking the initiative to prompt. Such a rigid system doesn't have any intelligence at all, right? However, if the system really has high intelligence, with such powerful power and high intelligence, it is a bit difficult to control. If one day The system's intelligence suddenly has the idea of overturning the situation. Thinking of this, Liu shuddered all over. It's better to have low intelligence. Well, it's better to have no intelligence. Submit the mission. Since the mission has been completed, of course, it has to be submitted. Initial mission completed. User authority upgraded. Authority? Hearing the word authority, Liu remembered that on the system's user information, his authority is only level 1. System, what is the concept of this authority? Authority represents the user's degree of control over the system. The higher the authority, the more functions the system opens. When the authority is enough, the user can set the system's rules by himself. Is that what authority means? Liu nodded. I can set my own rules? Well, not bad, not bad. Liu was very satisfied with this self-made rule. How can it be better to follow other people's rules than to set your own rules? I am now level 2 authority. What functions can I have? System new function. Open the shopping mall dimension. Can open up the shopping mall dimension at the user's designated location. Shopping mall dimension? A dimension that is completely under my control. This, Liu was ecstatic. This is really a big gain. The system is really awesome this time. It is not deceptive at all. Alright, how big is this dimension? User authority level 2 can open up a shopping mall dimension with a radius of 20 kilometers. A radius of 20 kilometers? 400 square kilometers? This is not considered small. Not bad, not bad. Liu couldn't help but laugh. Chapter 45. This shopping mall space is not urgent for the time being. The shopping mall space would definitely be opened after returning. After all, that main world was the foundation of Liu. But return? System. When can I return? Liu found that this system that did not take the initiative to prompt was really troublesome. The user has completed the initial mission and can return at any time. I can return at any time? Liu nodded to show that he understood. Suddenly, he thought of the system's habit of not taking the initiative to prompt and quickly said to the system, System, if I return now, what will the impact be? Book of the Supreme Heavens host Zhou, he has started the first step of the main mission road to the Great Emperor. The user promises to be a witness. If the user returns, the host Zhou, he will not be able to submit the mission and the host's mission will not be completed. Damn, I knew there would be a problem. Liu secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, he did not return just now. Otherwise, Zhou Yi's mission would be stuck and could not be completed. Wouldn't it be a waste of effort? It's really troublesome for the system not to take the initiative to prompt. Liu frowned. The system is such a high-end thing. How can it have such a deceptive setting? Huh? Setting? Is it because I didn't set it up? Thinking of this, Liu quickly gave the system an order. System, turn on the auxiliary function. In order to ensure my safety and protect my interests, prompt me in a timely manner. Command accepted. System auxiliary function activated. Phew, is this really the reason? Liu let out a long breath and realized that all the reasons were because of him. Really? Liu did not know what to say. In order to protect the user's interests, the system suggests that the user please start the long-term mission. Shopping mall construction mission. Shopping mall construction mission? Didn't I not even open up the space? Can this mission be activated? Hearing the system's prompt, Liu was stunned for a moment. The shopping mall construction mission is activated. The user can collect the resources needed for the construction of the shopping mall in advance. Is that so? Liu heard this explanation and nodded. Let's start then. Advancement mission activated. Advancement mission, shopping mall construction. Mission duration, long-term. Mission description, as a system supplier, how can you not have your own shop? Construction resource collection mission activated. Collect all kinds of resources required for the construction of a shopping mall. As soon as Liu's voice fell, a series of system notifications rang out. Collecting construction resources? What do I need to collect? Don't tell me you want me to chop trees and move stones. Liu didn't know what kind of construction resources to collect. Shopping mall construction resources, including main building resources, environmental beautification resources, and indoor furnishings resources. Among the resources owned by the user, the resources required for the construction of a shopping mall have been found. The 5-color jade hall can be used as the main building resource. The Bodhi tree could be used as an afforestation resource. The immortal sword Heavenly Lake could be used as a lotus pond. The azure lotus, the arch weapon, can be used as a lotus seed. What the? Hearing the system's words, Liu was dumbfounded. Listen to that tone of voice. The green lotus monarch weapon was in existence that could destroy any world it was placed in. In the eyes of the system, it was a lotus flower that could be planted in a pond. All right, even though it was essentially a lotus flower. But what kind of background did he have? The chaotic green lotus was the original body of the arch. Wasn't he afraid of being beaten to death? There was also the immortal sword Heavenly Lake. That was the place where Qi Song Zi comprehended the sword. Every drop of water contained endless sword energy. In the eyes of the system, it was a pond that could be used to grow lotus flowers. The Bodhi tree was even worse. It was treated like a green belt. In comparison, the 5-color jade hall in the Lotus Thearcha's tomb was demolished and rebuilt by the system. It wasn't that surprising. If I collect resources according to this standard, do I have to build a shop or build a sky palace? Moreover, how long would it take me to collect resources of this level? Liu realized that he seemed to have been tricked by the system again. System notification. The higher the level of the resources collected by the user, the more perfect the shopping mall space will be. The shopping mall space is the user's foundation. Please treat it with caution. Foundation? Hearing this, Liu's expression turned serious. To be called a foundation by the system, it seemed that the shopping mall space couldn't be treated lightly. High-level construction resources? It's not like there isn't such a thing in this world. Liu got up and walked to the window. He looked up into the distance. The bronze immortal palace and the qi of heaven and earth are both good things. It's just a little dangerous. Host, Zhou Yi is submitting resources. The system's sudden notification made Liu's eyes light up. Isn't Zhou Yi a ready-made candidate? Didn't I give him a system for this? Zhou Yi, it seems that you still need to explore the bronze immortal palace. In the system's resource warehouse, a monkey-like beast that was more than 30 feet tall and covered in khaki scales appeared. This is a scaled ape? This thing already has the strength of the Nirvana realm, right? Zhou Yi can actually kill it? It seems that the speed of killing monsters to level up is not slow. It shouldn't take long to complete the mission. Wait. Thinking of this, Liu suddenly thought of a problem and was shocked. System, what are the completion conditions for Zhou Yi's mission to sweep the 6 major sect of Yen? It can't be to let him kill the leaders of the 6 major sect, right? The leaders of the 6 major sect had the strength of at least the Dragon Realm. If Zhou Yi wanted to defeat a Dragon Realm cultivator within a year, unless Liu cheated and directly gave him a set of saint-level equipment, it was really impossible. Mission completion condition is to defeat all the disciples of the same generation in the 6 major sect. That's more like it. Liu smiled and nodded. He glanced at the forest where Zhou Yi was hunting. There's not much time left. Zhou Yi, you have to grow up quickly. The founder can't wait any longer. Stepping out of the hall, Liu looked up into the distance. In addition to the bronze immortal palace, there's another place that can be collected, and that's the fire territory. To others, the raging flames in the fire territory are a dangerous place. But I can directly use the system to collect these flames. There's no danger, Liu thought and asked the system, System, you've already stored the information of the fire territory. The various flames in the fire territory, other than the effect of the flames themselves, do they have any benefits for the construction of the store? The construction of a store doesn't require the flames of the fire territory. But when a user creates the system in the future, he can use these flames to activate functions related to alchemy, crafting, and so on. That's right. I almost forgot. In the future, I'll definitely create systems for alchemy, crafting, and so on. I'll also need to activate the functions of alchemy and crafting for some systems. In that case, I'll have to make a trip to the fire territory. Liu looked up in the direction of the fire territory. He was a little tempted. Since he had nothing to do, he might as well make a trip. It would be safer to get the things in his pocket as soon as possible. The conveyance light shot up into the sky. Liu rode the conveyance light all the way to the fire territory. Chapter 46. The conveyance light flew all the way. The fire territory was very far from the Yin Kingdom. Even though Liu was flying at top speed, it still took him a day and a night to reach the fire territory. This is indeed the fire territory. The fire here is really scary. Seeing the raging flames in front of him, Liu could not help but be speechless. The area within 100 miles was covered in raging flames. Even half of the sky was burning red. Even though he was still far away, he could still feel the waves of heat coming at him. Even the ground where Liu was standing was scorched black and cracked. The high temperature caused Liu's forehead to be covered in sweat. Good heavens! How many years has this fire been burning? Has it been burning for so long? Liu activated the system's resource recovery function. The raging heat was collected by the system as soon as it got close to him. Seeing that there was no discomfort, Liu then walked toward the fire territory. The fire territory was divided into 9 layers. Liu first faced the first layer of red flames. Lava, earth, fire? Are you kidding me? Where's the lava? There is only fire here. Liu could not help but complain when he heard the system's notification. Fortunately, complaining did not affect the system's collection of flames. An invisible wave swept out. The raging flames in the surroundings seemed to be drawn into a huge whirlpool and were continuously collected by the system. It will take a long time to collect the flames in the fire territory within 100 miles. Even though the system quickly collected the flames in front of him, it did not seem to be a loss to the fire territory within 100 miles. Anyway, I'm not in a hurry. I'll keep it like this for now. Liu strolled casually in the raging flames. He walked around the fire territory in the first layer of red flames. He flew around in the conveyance light. 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds. By the time he reached the 9th circle, the red flames had already disappeared. Not bad, not bad. Seeing the earth fire stored in the system's resource storage, Liu nodded. The red earth fire has been collected. Next, it will be the blue flames. Liu walked towards the blue flame and stopped. System, there won't be any danger in collecting the blue flame, right? There is no danger. Then I'm relieved. The next step was the same. After spending a lot of effort, the blue Nanming primordial fire was plundered clean by Liu. The 3rd layer was a white flame. The pure and flawless milky white flames emitted a holy aura. This is the moonlight sacred flame? Liu was slightly taken aback when he saw the name. Then, he continued his plundering. The 4th layer was the pitch-black underworld fire. The 5th layer was the golden true sun flame. The 6th level was the purple mysterious purple flame. The 7th level was the 5 elemental true fire, which was intertwined with 5 colors. The 8th floor was the 7-colored 7 emotions heart fire. On the 9th level, there was an invisible 5-colored immortal flame. Starting from the 4th floor, Liu's movements became more and more cautious. The bone-chilling flames of the 9 underworld's flame made people feel strange and awkward, as if their senses had been messed up. Fortunately, Liu did not need to face the underworld flame directly. He only needed to approach it, and he could collect it. This made Liu feel a lot more at ease. The true sun flame was strong and blazing. As soon as he approached it, he felt a chill in his heart. The mysterious purple flame on the 6th level was even more purple. It was vast and mighty, making people feel a sense of submission. The 5 elemental true fire on the 7th level burned everything within the 5 elements. If not for Liu's quick reaction, his hair would have been burnt off. Even so, Liu also lost a pair of boots. He changed into a new pair of boots and continued forward. The 7 emotions heart fire on the 8th level almost made Liu asterisk. The 7 emotions heart fire burned people's desires. If not for the system protecting his mind, Liu's mind would have been burned to ashes as soon as he got close to the fire. Even so, Liu couldn't help but think back to the bitter years he had gone through back then. The young and inexperienced first love, the painful breakup, the death of a family member, the depression in life, and so on caused Liu to cry until he was in a mess. As for the ninth level's formless immortal flame, well, Liu had moved it inch by inch. Because this flame couldn't be seen, if he plunged in, no matter how powerful the system was, could he still be revived? Moving over bit by bit, the system kept giving Liu directions. Only then did Liu get close to the area of the strongest flame. It wasn't that the system didn't show the area of the invisible immortal flame in Liu's mind, but this thing was changing all the time and didn't have a fixed appearance at all. It really lived up to its name of being invisible. It really didn't have a fixed shape at all, and it couldn't be seen or touched at all. Fortunately, no matter how powerful it was still a dead thing. In the end, it still couldn't escape the fate of being plundered. Phew, it's finally done. Liu panted heavily, feeling tired all over. As the mastermind behind the scenes, it's really not suitable for this kind of hard work. In the future, I'll leave this kind of thing to Zhou Yi. Looking at the fire area in front of him that didn't have a trace of fire energy left, Liu smiled with satisfaction. It won't take long for this dangerous place to level up again and turn into a piece of fertile land. Liu stood with his hands behind his back, looking like he was bemoaning the state of the universe and pitying the fate of mankind. This raging flame is a disaster. Today, I'll take it away. This is a good fortune for me. My merit is immeasurable. If there is a heavenly Tao or something in this world, shouldn't it bestow me with boundless merit? Turning his head and glancing around, Liu found that there was a ground in front of him that was sintered into a glaze. People leave their names when they pass by, and wild geese leave their voices when they pass by. Of course, the traditions of the people can't be lost. I have to inscribe a few words. Walking to the glazed ground, Liu flicked out a wisp of sword energy from his fingertips and wrote a line of words on the ground. Back then, I was refining pills here, but I didn't expect to miss a spark and cause such a disaster. I am at fault. I have collected this flame to make up for my mistakes. Let's go. Let's go. No one's going to watch me show off. After writing this line of words, Liu smiled, rode on a beam of light, and soared into the sky, disappearing into the horizon. A few hours later, a dark beam of light flashed across the sky and landed on the ruins of the Fire Realm. Isn't this the Fire Realm? It was a man in his 50s wearing a Taoist robe. His robe was decorated with shiny black feathers. Isn't this the Fire Realm? Where's the fire? Where's the fire? Croak, croak, croak. The man in the Taoist robe angrily walked around the ruins of the Fire Realm and yelled. In the end, he even croaked like a crow. Damn it, where's the fire? Without the supreme divine fire of the Fire Realm, how could I make my divine clock? Damn it, why did the Fire Realm disappear? Ah, the crow Taoist screamed and ran around in the ruins of the Fire Realm. Suddenly, he saw the line of words left by Liu, which made him tremble in fear. He missed a spark when refining pills, and it turned into a Fire Realm? This person, what kind of heaven-defying and earth-shattering cultivation does he have? One day later, the world was shocked. The extreme flame ground, which had been burning for countless years, had actually disappeared just like that. What was even more terrifying was that the Fire Realm was formed by a spark that someone had missed when refining pills. And that person had taken the Fire Realm back. Is there still a great emperor in this world? The whole world suddenly fell silent. Everyone was so frightened by this news that they didn't even dare to breathe. Liu didn't know that the line of words he had written as a joke before he left was actually an earth-shattering act. Chapter 47. A month passed. During this month, Zhou Yi was still fighting monsters and leveling up every day. Liu, on the other hand, found a new toy and played with it happily. Shop Space Map Editor. This was the new toy Liu found. According to the system prompt, before opening the shop space, it was best to complete the terrain setting of the shop space. Try to set the space as perfect as possible. Otherwise, when modifying in the future, it would consume a lot of energy. Then the system opened a shop space map editor for Liu. Seeing this thing, Liu felt like he had found a treasure. Map editor. Hearing this name, it has an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Then, Liu was addicted. Waha! Liu laughed strangely and danced with joy. He completed the terrain setting again. In Liu's mind, the map editor was actually a huge sand table. It could be set according to Liu's thoughts: mountains, hills, plains, swamps, deserts, lakes, rivers, and so on. This time, Liu set a terrain that he thought was perfect. The Long Song Forest this time is more perfect than the Moonlight Woodland last time, right? Look at the scenery: high mountains, flowing water, waterfalls, and springs. There are mountains, water, plains, rivers, and the coast outside. It's perfect. Liu had a smug look on his face. System prompt: the practical value of the user set map is insufficient. Please refine it. Insufficient practical value? Where is it insufficient? After fiddling for a long time, he finally recreated the scene in his memory. But unexpectedly, the system poured a bucket of cold water on his head. Of course, Liu wouldn't do it. The current available terrain is insufficient, and the future development potential is insufficient. Well, the system was right. Liu sighed gloomily. This place with a radius of 20 miles is really too small. In a mere 20 miles, Liu recreated the entire Long Song Forest and even brought a part of the sea outside the coast. The whole map was beautiful, but most of the places were just for show and had no use at all. System: when I increase my authority in the future, will the store space expand accordingly? Every time you upgrade your authority, the store will automatically expand proportionally. In other words, the map I set up may eventually be enlarged to an unimaginable degree. If that's the case, then Eternal Song Forest development potential is indeed lacking. Liu nodded. He put away his playful thoughts and began to seriously think about the layout of the mall space. If he had to consider his future development, he couldn't just focus on the present. In the future, the space would expand, and so would the terrain. The most suitable terrain would be an island. In the future, every island could be transformed into a continent. The potential for development was great enough. If it's an island is too ordinary. Let's just use a floating island. The floating islands could become flying continents in the future. That's amazing. Liu quickly came up with an idea as he recalled the image of the floating island he had seen in a movie. There are a total of 9 floating islands, which will become 9 flying continents in the future. Once he had an idea, he quickly set it up. Not long after, the sand table displayed 9 beautiful floating islands surrounded by celestial clouds. At the top was a floating island with a radius of about 4 miles. Below it were 8 floating islands. A waterfall fell from the main island into one of the floating islands below. After flowing past the floating island, it fell onto the next floating island. The waterfall flowed past the 9 floating islands and rushed out from the last floating island, sprinkling into the void. The water returned from the void to the first floating island, forming an endless water cycle. Every island had a different shape and landscape, but they were all lush green with beautiful trees and lush green plants. The entire 9-story floating island looked like a painting, full of celestial aura. Good. This landscape suits my identity. After setting it up, Liu was very satisfied with the view. System: how is the landscape setting? Sufficient development potential meets the standards. All right. You can't expect a system without any intelligence to know how to flatter and bootlick. Save. Liu chuckled, closed the shop space map editor, got up, and walked out of the room. At this time, Zhou had already returned. After a month of killing monsters and leveling up, Zhou Yi's entire person had undergone a rebirth. Whether it was personal strength or mental state, they were completely in line with the standards of a genius cultivator. Zhou Yi walked into the main hall. He was wearing a golden crown on his head, a royal blue brocade robe, a jade belt tied around his waist, and black boots on his feet. His whole body was shining with spiritual light, and his eyes were full of vigor. He walked over with a majestic gait. His every movement was extraordinary, and his aura was like an abyss. Greetings to the founder. Zhou Yi bowed to Liu. No need for formalities. Liu glanced at Zhou Yi and nodded in satisfaction. It wasn't easy. It took more than a month to finally reach this level. If it weren't for the map editor to kill time, I would have been bored to death. At this moment, Zhou Yi was already a cultivator of the Nirvana realm. In a month's time, he opened the sea of bitterness, gushed the spring of life, built the divine bridge, and reached the other side. The level that ordinary people could not reach after years of hard work, or even a lifetime of hard work, was completed in a mere month under the system's golden finger. With this speed, Liu was still complaining that it was slow. If others knew, wouldn't they be so angry that they would kill themselves? Every day, he would kill monsters to gain combat experience, collect elixirs, and retrieve the corpses of the beasts. Then, he would use the pure vitality extracted from the beasts' corpses to cultivate. How could the cultivation speed not be fast? This was still because Zhou Yi remembered Liu's instructions and seriously consolidated his foundation. Otherwise, the cultivation speed would be even faster. In addition to the vitality consumed by his own cultivation, Zhou Yi used the excess energy to exchange for various experience skills. He also exchanged many combat skills from the system. With the Ji family's divine body, coupled with various experience and combat skills, Zhou Yi's current strength was already quite good. Good. Liu saw Zhou Yi's momentum and saw Zhou Yi's strength, and he was very satisfied. After this month of trial, you have grown very quickly. Now, your strength is not bad. Next, what you have to do is to show your elegance to the world. Liu looked at Zhou Yi, his eyes full of expectation. Of course, he was looking forward to it. The bronze immortal palace and the chi of heaven and earth were still waiting for Zhou Yi to collect. How could he not look forward to it? It's all thanks to the ancestral master's teachings. Zhou Yi didn't know Liu's thoughts. He saw Liu's expectations for him and was very touched. The path of the great emperor is all fought. Liu pointed in the direction of the void spirit cave heaven. Your path of invincibility begins here. Defeat all opponents in front of you and finally ascend to the supreme position of the great emperor. This disciple obeys. Zhou Yi bowed and accepted the order. A high-spirited spirit rushed straight to his chest. Chapter 48. Early morning. The thin spiritual mist had yet to dissipate, but the radiance of the morning sun had already reddened the mountain peak. A melodious sound of a bell rang out. The disciples of the spirit void grotto heaven began another day of life. They meditated and practiced qi, waved their fists and practiced martial arts, listened to the elders' lectures, practiced in combat, and then continued to meditate and practice qi. The same thing was repeated day after day, and it was so boring that it was tiresome. It's like this every day. Can't there be something new? The disciple on duty at the mountain gate yawned, only feeling that life was so boring that it was simply uninteresting. Stop complaining. Another disciple on duty next to him rolled his eyes. We're already good. Those immortal seedlings are the pitiful ones. Every day, apart from eating and sleeping, there's only cultivation, and cultivation. We can at least come out to breathe some fresh air. Everyone says that cultivation is good, but who knows that it's hard? You envy me for riding the wind and soaring the clouds, but I want to be like a flower and live together with a beautiful couple. Live together with a beautiful couple? Brother Tan is indeed one of my generation. Some time ago, I received a foreign affairs mission and went to the capital of the Yin Kingdom. I was lucky enough to go to the Yunyan Pavilion. That feeling... Stop talking. Someone is coming. At the mountain gate, a figure floated over. In the faint morning mist, the figure was faintly discernible, but his speed was extremely fast. In a moment, the figure had already approached. It was a young man, dressed in a brocade robe and wearing a golden crown. He was tall and had an extraordinary bearing. This person was Zhou Yi. Stop. This is the spirit void grotto heaven. We don't receive guests. Please leave quickly. The two disciples on duty at the mountain gate said loudly to Zhou Yi. I'm Zhou Yi, here to challenge. Zhou Yi cupped his fists and said loudly to the two disciples on duty at the mountain gate. What did you say? The two disciples on duty were stunned for a moment and looked at each other. Challenge? Challenge at the spirit void grotto heaven? There was such a thing? The two disciples on duty were stunned for a moment and then immediately became excited. Someone is challenging. Someone is here to challenge. That's great. Finally, there's something new. Finally, it's not boring anymore. Since you're here to challenge, according to the rules of the martial arts world, one of the disciples on duty seemed to have been the martial arts world, as he spoke in the martial arts world. Move aside. Another disciple on duty felt that it was too embarrassing and hurriedly interrupted him. As a disciple of an immortal sect, how could he speak like a bandit of the pugilistic world? Since you have come to challenge us, the void spirit grotto heaven naturally cannot back down. In that case, please advise me. This disciple was obviously much more mature. His words were neither servile nor overbearing, and he spoke confidently. Zhou Yi glanced at the two of them and shook his head. With your cultivation, if I were to make a move, it would be too much of a bully. I can't do it. Pooh. Seeing this scene through the system connection, Liu could not help but laugh out loud. The cultivation of these two disciples was not high. Even their sea of bitterness had just been opened. Their strength was indeed somewhat lacking. But weren't Zhou Yi's words igniting a fire? Looking down on others like that, who wouldn't be able to tolerate it. Bastard. Damn it. Sure enough, the two disciples were enraged. They roared and rushed up, waving their fists. The sea of misery had just been established and was at most slightly stronger than the martial art practitioners of the mortal world. They had no divine powers, no dermic powers, and no artifacts. Naturally, he could only use his fists to fight. Sorry to offend you. Zhou, he had already expected it. Seeing the two of them fighting, he smiled and waved his sleeves. A strong wind rushed out, and the two disciples were immediately sent flying. Ouch! It hurts! The two of them fell heavily to the ground, grimacing in pain. Struggling to get up, the disciple who had been the pugilistic world got up and cupped his fists, saying, Your martial arts are excellent. I admit defeat. The mountains will not change. Shut up. The other disciple roared, turned over, and jumped up. He rushed to the mountain gate and rang the alarm bell. Dang! 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 A series of rapid bell sounds rang, and the entire spirit void grotto heaven was shaken. The alarm bell rang? What's going on? Could it be that someone is here? Who is so daring? Is it the demon race in the ruins attacking the mountain gate? When the alarm bell rang, streaks of light rushed up from the spirit void grotto heaven, whistling and rushing to the mountain gate. Who dares to offend my spirit void grotto heaven? A streak of light rushed to the mountain gate, and an old man in a purple robe shouted loudly. The loud voice shook the surroundings with a buzzing sound. Swish! 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 Several streaks of light followed closely behind and landed at the mountain gate almost simultaneously. What's going on? The purple-robed old man glanced at Zhou Yi, turned to stare at the two disciples on duty at the mountain gate, and asked with a straight face, Sect Master, this person is here to challenge the sect? The disciple on duty at the mountain gate hurriedly pointed to Zhou Yi and reported to the sect master. Huh? Challenge? The sect master was stunned for a moment and turned to look at Zhou Yi. There was a bit of anger in his eyes. I'm Li Dingyuan, the sect master of the spirit void grotto heaven. Which sect are you from? How dare you come to my spirit void grotto heaven to make trouble? I'm Zhou Yi, a disciple of Dao sect. Zhou Yi cupped his hands and bowed to sect master Li. I've long heard of the great name of the spirit void grotto heaven. I'm itching to challenge you. Dao sect? What sect is this? Why haven't I heard of it? Hearing Zhou Yi's self-introduction, Sect Master Li was obviously stunned. Where did this small sect come from? Or is it a hidden sect? Now is obviously not the time to pursue this. Throwing away the doubts in his heart, Sect Master Li glanced at Zhou Yi coldly, and there was already some anger in his heart. My spirit, void, grotto heaven is famous. How can we allow others to humiliate us? How dare you come and challenge us? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Could it be that I haven't made a move for many years, and any Tom, Dick, and Harry dares to bully us? Thinking of this, Sect Master Li's eyes turned cold, and a faint spiritual light lit up in his hand. He planned to slap this bastard who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth to death. Just as he was about to make a move, he suddenly heard Elder Lu next to him exclaim, "Ah, young Master Zhou, it's you?" Elder Lu stared at Zhou Yi in horror. A heavenly venerable's sect came to challenge us? How are we supposed to live like this? Elder Lu's heart was in turmoil, and he even had the thought of dying. What did my spirit void grotto heaven do wrong? Elder Lu, what are you? Sect Master Li had been the sect master for many years and was very careful. Seeing that Elder Lu's expression was not right, he immediately became cautious and stopped the attack that he was about to make. Sect Master, don't. Elder Lu suddenly saw the spiritual light that had not dissipated in Sect Master Li's hand and was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly rushed in front of Sect Master Li and grabbed his hand. Don't make a move. Elder Lu. Sect Master Li was very surprised when he saw Elder Lu's action and hurriedly asked, Sect Master, the immortal seedlings at the edge of the forbidden area were divided equally among our 6 sects, but one was taken away by that person. Speaking of this, Elder Lu gestured to Zhou Yi with his eyes. He is the one who was taken away. What? He is? Sect Master Li jumped up in shock. Thinking of how he almost made a move just now, Sect Master Li broke out in a cold sweat. So close. So close. Headmaster Li's heart was pounding madly. Fortunately, I didn't make a move, or else the calamity of sect destruction would be right in front of me. Chapter 49. Young Master Zhou, I wonder why you are here. Elder Lu could be considered to be acquainted with Zhou Yi, so he hurriedly went up to him and asked with a smile. Sigh. The reputation of the ancestral master is too great. When Zhou Yi saw this situation, he felt somewhat helpless in his heart. He's so humble. How can I make a move on him? However, the mission to sweep through the 6 great sect had to be completed, so Zhou Yi could only bite the bullet. It's a good thing that the ancestral master didn't follow us. Otherwise, there would be no need to fight. The spirit void paradise would definitely admit defeat immediately. Secretly rejoicing in his heart, Zhou Yi braced himself and said to Elder Lu, thanks to the teachings of the ancestral master, my cultivation has improved. The ancestral master had once said that the spirit void paradise could be considered to have obtained the inheritance of the Tao scripture. Therefore, I wanted to come and spar with the disciples of the spirit void paradise. I wonder if your sect can give me this opportunity? Elder Lu looked at Zhou Yi with his mouth agape. Tao scripture inheritance? The Tao scripture's introductory cultivation method was circulated throughout the world. Even if the Tao scripture was written by an Empyrean, why did he have to find us? You are a disciple of an Empyrean. Who would dare to make a move against you? If I hurt you, the Empyrean would be unhappy, and my spirit void paradise would not even exist. However, Zhou Yi had already come knocking on his door, so it would not make sense if he did not give an explanation. Let's discuss it for a while. How about it? Elder Lu could not make this decision. He excused himself from Zhou Yi and hurriedly returned to the sect to discuss this issue with Headmaster Li and the other elders. Everyone, we don't have to be too nervous. Headmaster Li quickly made a decision. Since we've already come knocking on our door, we definitely have to compete. Moreover, we don't have to worry too much. Since that person asked him to come here, he must have the intention of training him. As long as it's not fatal or crippling, a small injury will definitely be fine. That makes sense. The elders all nodded. Then let the disciples have a match with him. Headmaster Li made the decision, and everyone brought Zhou Yi into the Spirit Void Paradise. Arriving at the martial arts practice field of the Spirit Void Paradise, Headmaster Li and Elder Lu personally chatted with Zhou Yi, while the other elders hurriedly prepared for the next competition. Not long after, the disciples of the Spirit Void Paradise arrived. Yi Fan, do you think that's the Book of Changes? Pangbo pointed at Zhou Yi, who was chatting happily with Headmaster Li on the stage, and said to Yi Fan, "It really is the Book of Changes." Fan Xian was surprised. Isn't he following the Supreme Tao ancestor? What are you doing here? Who knows? Pangbo shook his head indifferently. He looked up in the direction of Zhou Yi and said with some envy, "Having a backer is really different. Look, the sect leader is personally accompanying him and serving him like a lord. With someone at the top, it'll be easy to survive anywhere. Identity and background aren't the most important things in this world. The most important thing is still your own strength." Saying this, Yi Fan's heart was somewhat depressed. He had an unparalleled sacred body that had never been seen before, yet he was not suitable for cultivation. For more than a month, there was no movement from misery at all. They could not even enter the door. How could Yi Fan be happy about this? "Don't worry, Yi. There's always a way out. You'll definitely have a chance." Seeing Yi Fan's expression, Pangbo hurriedly comforted him. Disciples. At this time, Headmaster Li suddenly stood up and walked up to the main stage, saying to the people below the stage, "Disciples, today young Master Zhou of the Tao sect has come to visit. Young Master Zhou's cultivation is profound and his background is extraordinary. He is interested in exchanging pointers with the disciples of our Spirit Void Paradise." Saying that, Headmaster Li extended his hand and gestured towards Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi nodded his head, stepped forward, and cupped his fists towards everyone below the stage. "Spar?" Hearing the headmaster's words, all the disciples below the stage were stunned. Was it a spar? Or was it a challenge? All the disciples raised their heads and glanced at Zhou Yi, their expressions somewhat unfriendly. Spar? Zhou Yi wanted to spar with a Spirit Void disciple? How many days had it been? Just how much ability did he learn? Pangbo's eyes widened, his face filled with disbelief. Yi Fan was also very surprised. It had only been a month, and Zhou Yi was already able to spar with a Spirit Void disciple. The divine abilities of a Tao Father were truly something that one could only look up to. Disciples. Headmaster Li continued, "This old man also feels that this is an opportunity to learn from each other and promote each other. Therefore, it is also a good thing for you to gather all the disciples here to observe and broaden your horizons." At this point, Headmaster Li waved his hand, and 10 streaks of light shot up, landing on the viewing platform. The light faded away, and the 10 Spirit Void disciples lined up in a row, appearing on the high platform. 10 prodigies of the Spirit Void realm. These are the top 10 of this year's sect competition. Seeing these 10 figures appear on the high platform, the disciples below the stage were in an uproar. The headmaster actually let the 10 prodigies of the Spirit Void realm spar with Zhou Yi. Why use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken? There were also some steady disciples who felt that Zhou Yi's cultivation was probably not weak. Otherwise, the headmaster wouldn't have sent the 10 prodigies of the Spirit Void realm out. Young Master Zhou, these are the most outstanding disciples of our Spirit Void Paradise. They can all exchange pointers with young Master Zhou. Please choose as you wish. Headmaster Li pointed to the 10 disciples standing beside him and said to Zhou Yi with a smile, "Thank you, Headmaster Li. The Spirit Void disciples are indeed extraordinary." Zhou Yi cupped his hands towards Headmaster Li and then glanced at the 10 Spirit Void disciples beside him. He casually pointed to a disciple. "I'll exchange pointers with this brother first. This guy's eyes are so sharp." He picked the weakest one at a glance. "But do you think he's easy to bully because he's weak? You'll be in for a good show later." Headmaster Li had the intention of watching a good show in his heart, and a smile appeared on his face. "Of course you can. Lin Han, exchange pointers with young Master Zhou." "Yes." The disciple named Lin Han answered and leaped onto the battle arena. Headmaster Li, I'll exchange pointers with Brother Lin first. I'll take my leave for now. Zhou Yi greeted Headmaster Li, and then with a tap of his foot, he also leaped onto the battle arena. On the arena, the two stood on opposite ends, facing each other. You picked me because you think I'm the weakest? Lin Han sneered. Among the 10 prodigies of the spirit void realm, my cultivation is indeed the lowest. But if we weren't so familiar with each other, at least half of the 10 prodigies would not be my opponent. So, you chose the wrong person. Ha! Zhou Li chuckled. If I said I randomly picked you, would you believe me? Humph! Lin Han snorted heavily and didn't answer. A silver light appeared in his hand, and a 1-foot-long silver dagger appeared in his hand. Please, please. As soon as his voice fell, the silver dagger in Lin Han's hand suddenly soared into the sky, turning into a dagger light that was more than 10 feet long out of thin air. As if splitting the sky and earth, it chopped down on Zhou Yi's head. Good skill. Facing this dagger, Zhou Yi praised. The dagger in his hand whistled and slashed towards the dagger light. Space splitting blade. Senior Brother Lin used a big move right away. Even the elders can't easily resist this move. This person is so arrogant. He will definitely suffer a big loss. Chapter 50. What a space-rending blade. On the viewing platform, Headmaster Li and the group of elders saw Lin Han use this move and immediately nodded in praise. Lin Han's talent is extraordinary. He was born with an affinity for metal chi. If the ancient Tao of sword cultivation hadn't been cut off, he would probably be another peerless sword immortal. What a pity. The world has changed. Many cultivation paths that were once at the top of the world have fallen into decline. Headmaster Li sighed softly and turned to look at Elder Lu. Among the immortal seedlings that Elder Lu brought back last time, wasn't there an unprecedented, unparalleled holy physique? If it weren't for the fact that the world had changed, this saintly physique alone would be enough to make the void spirit cave heaven awe the world. What a pity. It is indeed a pity. Elder Wu Changfeng also sighed. That child Yi Fan's willpower is all top-notch. Unfortunately, he was a saintly being. Even a holy land can't support a saintly physique. How can my void spirit cave heaven afford to raise him? While the elders were discussing, changes had already taken place in the arena. Clang! The short sword in Zhou Yi's hand suddenly let out a shrill sword howl. A layer of water-like sword light appeared on the short sword as it slashed down towards Lin Han's Tianzhong long saber light. Pooh! A soft sound rang out. The Tianzhong long saber light was shattered by the sword. Ah! Lin Han cried out in pain and squatted down, holding his head. This space-rending blade condensed all of Lin Han's mind. After it was destroyed by Zhou Yi's sword, Lin Han's mind was injured and he had a splitting headache. Ah! How is this possible? Senior Brother Lin's space-rending blade was broken so easily. What is the background of this Zhou guy? So strong? Taoism? What sect is this? Lin Han, who had high hopes, was instantly killed by Zhou Yi in one move. The disciples below the stage suddenly went into an uproar. They simply could not believe everything in front of them. Zhou Yi is actually so strong? Pang Bo opened his mouth wide and couldn't close it for a long time. He has already far surpassed us. Yi Fan was expressionless, but his heart was churning like a huge wave. They had the same background, the same history, but they had not seen each other for a short month. His former classmate was already high and mighty. How could Yi Fan's heart be calm? No, I can't go on like this. Fan Xian clenched his fists tightly and had already made up his mind. On the viewing platform, when Headmaster Li and the elders saw this, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Sword cultivator? There's actually a sword cultivation method that has been passed down to this day. The elders were quite frightened by Zhou Yi's sword. It was not that Zhou Yi's sword was very powerful, but the sudden appearance of a sword cultivator on this day, when the Tao of sword cultivators was almost extinct, shocked all the elders. Sect leader Li and elder Lu looked at each other and understood, but they didn't dare to say it out loud. As an Empyrean's disciple, Zhou Yi knew a bit of sword cultivation. This was nothing at all. In the arena, a deacon hurried up the stage and helped Lin Han down. Zhou Yi had indeed exchanged for some sword cultivation techniques, and he had also consumed energy to cultivate a trace of sword energy. However, this level of cultivation was still very shallow. If Lin Han had not focused his mind on the saber light, he would not have been injured at all. Even now, although Lin Han's mind was damaged, as long as she calmed herself down, she would be able to recover in a few days. However, in the eyes of the disciples who did not know the truth, Zhou Yi was really too arrogant. Not only did he come knocking on our door, he even attacked so heavily. Was he looking down on our spirit void grotto heaven? If I don't teach you a lesson, how can I vent the anger in my heart? Sect leader, this disciple would like to seek advice from young Master Zhou. Please allow it. The one who stepped forward was the head of the 10 prodigies spirit void realm, who had broken through to the sea reincarnation realm and had just advanced to the Tao Palace. Seeing him step forward, the other 10 prodigies spirit void realm, who were eager to give it a try, retreated. With eldest senior brother stepping forward, what else could the others say? You Dao? He wants to ask for a fight? Sect leader Li suddenly felt somewhat troubled. He was very clear about Yu Dao's thoughts, and also knew Yu Dao's cultivation strength. However, he was worried about Zhou Yi. If Yu Dao did not control his strength, then it would be somewhat troublesome. Since this brother is interested, Sect leader Li, how about letting us exchange pointers? Just as Sect leader Li was troubled, Zhou Yi spoke on the stage. All right. Sect leader Li nodded and thought to himself, it's good to let you learn a lesson, lest you think that there's no one in our spirit void grotto heaven. After getting the sect leader's consent, Yu Dao tapped his foot, and his entire body was like a fallen leaf in the wind, flying and landing on the arena. Great! Senior brother Yu's autumn leaves dancing in the wind is really vivid. Seeing eldest senior brother Yu Dao's graceful bearing on the stage, the disciples below the stage immediately cheered loudly. This was not only to encourage eldest senior brother, but also to put pressure on Zhou Yi. This move, autumn leaves dance in the wind, was indeed extraordinary. Rising with the wind without a trace, it's not shallow at all. On the viewing platform, an elder nodded and praised. Yu Dao's talent is indeed extraordinary to be able to cultivate this autumn leaves dancing in the wind to this realm when he has just entered the Tao Palace realm. In the arena, seeing Yu Dao's posture, Zhou Yi could not help but laugh. Such a showy posture looked very deserving of a beating. What are you laughing at? Is my autumn leaves dancing in the wind movement technique wrong? Yu Dao looked at Zhou Yi and frowned. No, it's a very beautiful movement technique. Zhou Yi also felt that his behavior was frivolous and hurriedly smoothed things over. Beautiful. Hearing this word, Yu Dao raised his eyebrows and a wave of anger rose in his heart. He no longer talked nonsense and directly issued a challenge. Please. After he finished speaking, Yu Dao's figure swayed, and he waved his hand to scatter a brilliance. For a moment, the autumn wind was bleak, and the fallen leaves drifted. Countless fallen leaves floated in the entire arena. These fallen leaves drifted with the wind, as if the autumn wind was blowing and the fallen leaves were drifting. It did not seem to have the slightest bit of smoke and fire, nor did it seem to have any lethality. However, each leaf was as sharp as a blade. With just a thought, any leaf could be turned into a fierce killing move. This was Yu Dao's killing move, endless falling leaves rustling. Once caught in the attack, one would face the attacks of countless fallen leaves at all times. It was endless and impossible to guard against. As soon as this move was used, the entire martial arts practice field suddenly fell silent. Senior brother Yu Dao actually has such a killing move? So senior brother has never used his true strength? All the disciples were shocked. At the same time, they were very confident in Yu Dao's victory. It's really beautiful. Seeing the fallen leaves drifting down and feeling the dense, killing intent contained in them, Zhou Yi was not moved at all. He just praised the beautiful scene of this move. You will soon know that it's not just beautiful. Yu Dao sneered, and his spiritual power shook. Countless fallen leaves flew through the air with a swish. One strike is enough to defeat the enemy and win. With so many tricks, the power is instead scattered. Zhou Yi shook his head. His whole body shook, and a brilliant divine brilliance lit up. A vast scene appeared beside Zhou Yi. In the boundless ocean, a bright moon slowly rose. The brilliant brilliance illuminated the entire sky. All the fallen leaves that flew to Zhou Yi's side were instantly crushed in this brilliance. In the boundless moonlight, Zhou Yi gently pressed down his palm. A huge handprint came crashing down from the sky. Puff! The scene of endless fallen leaves instantly shattered, and Yu Dao spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out backward. See rising bright moon. Divine body, phenomenon. Great void handprint. Isn't his surname Zhou? How? Everyone on the viewing platform jumped up in shock. Chapter 51. Young Master Zhou's cultivation is indeed outstanding. Since Yu Dao had been defeated, this exchange, which was called a spar but was actually a challenge, could only come to an end. Sect leader Li hurriedly welcomed Zhou Yi. This person's background was too great to be provoked. It was better to send this plague away as soon as possible. Although sect leader Li was very uncomfortable in his heart, he could only smile and admit his inferiority. Your Majesty, the Spirit Void Grotto Heaven has admitted defeat, and the first step of the initial mission is completed. The voice of the Spirit of the Heavenly Book sounded in his mind. Zhou Yi breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly left as sect leader Li wished. Very good. Li Yu yawned and sat up from the bed. 1/6 of the mission has been completed. Kid Zhou, hurry up and sweep the other 5 sect. I'm getting impatient from waiting. With a thought, Li Yu instructed the Spirit of the Heavenly Book to continue to issue missions, urging Zhou Yi to rush all the way to the next cultivation sect. Wait, I actually forgot to set the mission reward. Li Yu suddenly realized that when he set the mission for Zhou Yi, he did not consider the mission reward at all. Without a reward, how can there be a motivation to complete the mission? This reward must be there. Li Yu intended to make up for it, but what should I reward him with? It has to be attractive and not expensive. Then it can only be cultivation method manuals. Among all the resource information scanned by the system, only cultivation method and knowledge resources were relatively cheap to produce and attractive enough. In that case, I'll give Zhou Yi a cultivation method. Li Yu thought for a while and suddenly had an idea. The surname Zhou comes from the Ji family, and he can be considered a descendant of the great emperor. Moreover, he has exchange for the great void handprint, so I'll just give him the void scripture. Time passed day by day. Zhou Yi's battle record was also getting more and more glorious. After defeating the Spirit Void Grotto Heaven, Zhou Yi came to the Mist Grotto Heaven. The Mist Grotto Heaven had been greatly harmed by Li Yu, so how could they dare to provoke Zhou Yi? He randomly found a disciple and admitted defeat after a few rounds. After the Mist Grotto Heaven was Purple Sun, and after Purple Sun was Jade Tripod. The subsequent challenges were also real battles. Although no one dared to kill, they didn't hold back in the slightest. Zhou Yi challenged all the way and swept all the way. His cultivation became more profound, and his combat experience became more and more skilled. At the same time, his name became more and more resounding. A month later, Zhou Yi finally completed the task of sweeping the 6 major sect. He was already famous in the Yin country. Your Majesty, the initial quest for the path to the great emperor has been completed. Hearing the hint from the Spirit of the Heavenly Book, Zhou Yi let out a long sigh. Your Majesty, it's because you're a descendant of a great emperor and possess a divine body. The system has automatically matched the Void Imperial Sutra as the reward. Mission reward? Void Imperial Sutra? Hearing this, he was ecstatic. At first, he was wondering why there was no reward for the system's mission. It turned out that the rewards would only be given out after all the missions were completed. Moreover, the rewards that were given out were simply too satisfying. The Void Imperial Sutra was a great emperor's Tao-proving scripture. It required tens of millions of energy points to exchange for it. It was not something he could obtain in a short time. Now, the initial mission had actually given him this classic that was completely in line with his identity. How considerate was this? At this moment, he was very satisfied with the highest heavenly book system. Well, he didn't know that the cost price of this kind of knowledge exchange with Li Yu was only a mere 10 points. For the system, creating physical objects consumed a huge amount of energy, but creating knowledge without a physical body consumed almost negligible energy. When Li Yu set the price, he made the knowledge exchange refer to the energy required to create weapons of the same level, and then doubled it. Weapons of the same level as the Imperial Sutra were Imperial weapons. The energy required to create an Imperial weapon was doubled again. This price was no longer something that could be described by a black-hearted merchant. Zhou Yi's mission is completed. When Li Yu received this news, he couldn't help but laugh. Now there's only one last thing left, and that is to get the Bronze Immortal Palace. System, connect to the highest heavenly book and let the spirit of the heavenly book issue a mission. The second step of the path to the Great Emperor, the Imperial Weapon Mission, guide him to the Bronze Immortal Palace. When the spirit of the heavenly book received Li Yu's order, it immediately took action. Your Majesty, you have taken the first step of the path to the Great Emperor. Next, the second step of the mission will be activated. Oh, what's the second step of the mission? He had just received a huge reward and was looking forward to the second step of the mission. The second step of the path to the Great Emperor, the Imperial Weapon Mission. To become a Great Emperor, how can one not have an Imperial weapon? An Imperial weapon that has followed the Great Emperor all the way is the Great Emperor's Tao-confirming treasure. It's very important. Imperial weapon. He thought of the powerful treasures in the exchange system, and his heart suddenly became hot. That's right. The Imperial weapon was not only the Great Emperor's personal weapon, but also the testimony of the Great Emperor's Tao-confirming treasure. To become a Great Emperor, how can one not have an Imperial weapon? Accept the Imperial Weapon Mission. Thinking of this, he quickly accepted this mission. The Imperial Weapon Mission is activated. Your Majesty, please follow the instructions to find the Bronze Immortal Palace and collect the Heaven and Earth Chi in the Immortal Palace as an Imperial weapon material. Heaven and Earth Chi? When He heard this very familiar name, he was surprised and happy. Heaven and Earth Chi. Didn't the legendary founder have a Heaven and Earth exquisite Heaven and Earth mysterious yellow pagoda? It was said that that treasure was refined with Heaven and Earth Chi. If I collect the Xianhuang Qi, will I be able to create a supreme treasure like the patriarchs? Are there any clues about the Bronze Immortal Palace? Where is it exactly? He anxiously asked the spirit of the heavenly book. The Bronze Immortal Palace is wandering under the earth, and its specific location cannot be determined. However, according to the system's speculation, the Bronze Immortal Palace will soon appear near the Supreme Mystery Sect. Supreme Mystery Sect. During this period of time, he had been fighting all over the place and had some understanding of the Supreme Mystery Sect. This was a behemoth. Fortunately, there was no need to clash with the Supreme Mystery Sect on this trip, so he was not worried. In that case, I will inform the founder and go to the vicinity of the Supreme Mystery Sect to investigate. He turned around and planned to return to the volcanic ruins. Of course, Li didn't want to delay time by going back and forth. He quickly asked the system to create a virtual image and appeared beside Founder? Just as he was about to fly away, he suddenly saw Li Yu's figure appear beside him and quickly stopped. Founder, this disciple has already defeated. I saw it all. You did well. Li Yu nodded in appreciation. The virtual image was like a real person. His every move was no different from a real person. Founder, this disciple wants to go out. I asked for the founder's permission. You should go out and explore. Liu smiled and nodded. Your foundation is solid now. It's time to meet the heroes of the world. Zhou, after this, I will also be leaving. In the future, you will have to walk your own path. Founder, although he knew that Liu was going to leave, Zhou didn't expect this day to come so soon. He suddenly felt a little reluctant in his heart. All good things must come to an end. Besides, it's not like we won't have a chance to meet in the future. Liu smiled and waved his hand. Although my real body is not here, it's not difficult for me to meet you with my avatar. Why do you have to do this? Yes. Zhou, he suddenly remembered that when he called the founder for help in the past, didn't the founder immediately manifest an avatar? The founder had great magical powers. How difficult was it for him to manifest an avatar to meet him? Founder, this disciple will leave now. Zhou, and Liu bowed and saluted. Then they flew in the direction of the Supreme Mystery Sect. I hope this trip will go smoothly. Liu looked at Zhou Yi's departing figure and exhaled softly. Chapter 52. Your Majesty, according to the system's measurement, the Bronze Immortal Palace is nearby. Zhou, he had just come out of a cliff when he suddenly heard the prompt from the spirit of the heavenly book. Zhou, he was pleasantly surprised. After spending several days wandering around here, he had no clue at all. Now, he finally found clues of the Bronze Immortal Palace, which made Zhou heave a sigh of relief. Following the direction indicated by the spirit of the heavenly book, Zhou searched all the way. After a while, Zhou stopped in front of a clear spring in front of a hill. It's under this? Zhou looked at the clear spring and frowned slightly. If it was really here, then he could only dig a hole to enter. Your Majesty, through this spring, you can enter an underground River. Follow the River, and you will reach the Bronze Immortal Palace about 10 miles or so. If that's the case, then I can only dig a hole. Zhou waved his hand and took out a short sword. Traces of sword chi lingered endlessly and pierced into the spring like lightning. The sword chi whistled, and in a moment, a big hole was opened in the spring. The cold water of the underground River rolled out. Zhou Yi's whole body erupted with divine light as he plunged into the hole and dived into the underground River. He followed the cold River downstream. Whoosh! With the sound of water, Zhou came to a vast underground lake. The brilliant divine brilliance blooming all over his body turned into a light shield, isolating the lake water. Zhou fell to the bottom of the lake. With the help of the divine brilliance, he saw the magnificent bronze palace in front of him. I finally found it. Zhou looked at the bronze palace in front of him with a fervent light in his eyes. Is this the Bronze Immortal Palace? His moving footsteps quickened a little as Zhou rushed all the way to the Bronze Immortal Palace. The water flow brought by the rapid passage rolled up a vortex behind him. Suddenly, Zhou saw a figure flash by his side from the corner of his eye. Who is it? Zhou was shocked and turned to look at the place where the figure appeared and disappeared. He held a short sword and was on guard. This is... When Zhou saw it clearly, he found that it was a floating corpse in the water. So, it's just a floating corpse. Zhou breathed a sigh of relief, but he was secretly vigilant in his heart. The fact that there were corpses meant that this place was not a good place. It was better to be careful. Zhou continued to move forward carefully. Along the way, he saw more and more floating corpses. Zhou became more and more vigilant. They slowly walked to the front of the Bronze Immortal Palace. Surprisingly, nothing unexpected happened along the way. Zhou let out a long breath and raised his head to look at the Bronze Immortal Palace in front of him. He faintly felt an inexplicable aura coming from the Immortal Palace, which made his heart palpitate. There's actually no danger along the way. Liu was originally worried that something would happen. He had been paying attention to Zhou Yi's situation, but he never expected that Zhou wouldn't encounter any danger when he reached the Bronze Immortal Temple. In the original work, when the Bronze Immortal Palace was born, there were so many casualties and blood flowed like a river. Liu sighed and suddenly thought of the root of the problem. In the original work, so many people died because they entered the Bronze Immortal Palace. Inside the Bronze Immortal Palace, be it the Chaos Chi, the Yin-Yang Chi, or the Door of Profundity, they all contain boundless killing intent. If it wasn't for Yi Fan... wait. Liu's face suddenly turned pale. This thing has an owner. The original owner was still alive. If I were to take the Bronze Immortal Palace, would I be slapped to death? Just as Liu was feeling uneasy, Zhou had already made his move. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, what should we do next? Zhou looked at the Bronze Immortal Palace in front of him and asked the Spirit of the Heavenly Book in his heart. When Liu saw this situation, he immediately made a decision. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, let him collect the black and yellow Qi first. After receiving Liu's instructions, the Spirit of the Heavenly Book hurriedly guided Zhou and slowly approached the surface of the lake. The surface of the lake above seemed to be shrouded in a layer of dark clouds. As Zhou continued to get closer, a huge pressure assaulted his face. The heavy pressure was like a heavy mountain pressing down on his head. Zhou let out a muffled groan. His entire body flashed with divine light, and his bones kept making ka-ka sounds. There's actually so much pressure? Zhou held on with all his might, panting heavily. This pressure was like the surrounding gravity that suddenly increased by dozens or hundreds of times. Zhou felt that if he continued to move forward, he would definitely be smashed to pieces. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, how can I collect the black and yellow Qi? Do you still want to continue to get closer? Zhou looked up at the dark clouds shrouding above, and the corner of his mouth twitched. Your Majesty, the distance now is enough to collect the black and yellow Qi. However, it will take some time to complete the collection. Your Majesty, please hold on. Quickly collect it. Why are you still talking nonsense? Zhou was trembling from the huge pressure. He sweated profusely and couldn't help but reprimand the Spirit of the Heavenly Book. Start collecting. Liu also issued the same order. An invisible wave of energy swept across the area. Zhou only felt that a huge vortex suddenly appeared in the dark clouds above his head. The dark clouds around him kept rolling into the vortex and disappeared. Is this collecting the black and yellow Qi? Very good. Collect more. Collect more. I can still hold on. Seeing the scene above his head, Zhou thought that he could use the black and yellow Qi to refine an emperor weapon in the future, and his whole body became excited. Can you still hold on? Liu chuckled. Even if you can't hold on, you have to hold on. How can I stop before collecting all the black and yellow Qi? System, increase the speed of collecting the black and yellow Qi. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, if Zhou can't hold on, let him exchange for the divine spring to repair his body. In terms of quantity, you can give him more so that he can hold on a little longer. Following Liu's order, the system collected the black and yellow Qi even faster. Looking at the rapidly increasing black and yellow Qi in the resource warehouse, Liu nodded with satisfaction. Through the system connection, I can expand the resource collection function for the Heavenly Book of the highest Heavenly Book. I can easily collect the black and yellow Qi. It's not much different from collecting it personally. However, it's much safer and easier for me. Liu smiled and nodded. It seems that there won't be many opportunities to roll up my sleeves and go into battle in the future. The black and yellow Qi in the resource warehouse continued to increase, and Liu smiled very happily. Spirit of the Heavenly Book, how much longer will it take? Zhou had already drunk the divine spring more than 10 times. If it weren't for the divine spring to repair his body, Zhou Yi's whole body would have been broken. Your Majesty, please hold on for a little longer. It will be done soon. Hurry up. Zhou Yi's whole body was in so much pain that he was almost numb, but he still gritted his teeth and held on. As time passed, more and more black and yellow Qi was collected, and the pressure on Zhou Yi gradually became lighter. In the end, Zhou Yi's whole body trembled. He only felt comfortable all over and no longer felt the pressure. Your Majesty, the collection of black and yellow qi is complete. It's done? Haha, that's great. Hearing the words of the spirit of the heavenly book, Zhou Yi's heart was relieved, and he couldn't help but laugh out loud. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.